Welcome to the Fantasy Audiobook. Global Gods. From Zerg Cultists to Multiversal Overlords. Chapter 1. Tip: the subspace connection to the Divine Realm has been completed. Tip: you have entered the user-exclusive Divine Space. Lu Yuan felt his mind tremble, and the world in front of him disappeared, and then he appeared in a gray void. Below is his own divine domain. Open the Shinchi panel. Lu Yuan stood high in the sky like a cloud of nothingness, and his thoughts were directly connected to the God's domain server. Suddenly a series of information emerged. User: Lu Yuan. God's name: God of Natural Disasters. Faith value: 100. Rank: Demigod. Priest: Drought, Sandstorm, Desolation. Sacred Fire: not lit. Godhead: none. Faith race: Desert Worm. Believers: Pan-believers 20,000. God's domain interface. Area: 50 hectares. Environment: forest, lake, grassland disappeared. Vegetation: composite broad-leaved forest disappeared. Animal: monkey group disappeared, snake group disappeared. Mineral deposits: none. Evaluation: the once rich natural ecological environment was gradually devoured by worms with an astonishing appetite, and the future was bleak. Believer interface. Name: Desert Worm. Category: Zerg. Stage: not entering the level. Ability: none. Life: 1, only 1/5 of human beings. Strength: 0.8. The meager strength can only support their continuous wriggling. Agility: 0.5, a little faster than a snail. Intelligence: 0.3. Low intelligence is not enough to provide high faith. Evaluation: the lowest branch of the Zerg tribe. Except for its amazing food intake, it has nothing to offer. It's really so bad. Lu Yuan withdrew his gaze from the divine domain information and looked towards his own divine domain. I saw. The originally lush jungle world has now become completely desolate. Within a radius of 50 hectares, there are 20,000 desert worms scattered around. This is Lu Yuan's only believer now. No, it's Lu Yuan before time travel. The current Lu Yuan came from a place called Blue Star because he stayed up all night playing games. After accepting the memories of his predecessor, he realized that this was a world where most people could become demigods, open up a divine domain in subspace, and raise their own followers. However, on the first day of high school, Luo Ziming, who was called a brother in need by his predecessor Lu Yuan, met Luo Ziming. First, he borrowed the mid-level resource card that Lu Yuan spent countless general points to buy, and because of its fast reproduction speed and infinite power once mutated, Lu Yuan chose the desert worm as a disciple. Later, relying on the training of intermediate resource cards, he became the #1 genius in the entire freshman year of high school. At that time, Lu Yuan realized that he had been tricked by this sanctimonious brother. Encouraging yourself to work hard to make money is actually providing him with intermediate resource cards. The reason why he chose Desert Worm was to eliminate the possibility of him finding out the truth and seeking revenge from him in the future. The Desert Worm's reproductive ability is indeed amazing, but even so, it is impossible to mutate at all. Not only that, their intelligence is extremely low, and they cannot even become deep believers. The resulting faith is even pitifully low. Not only in terms of race, but also in terms of belief, the future of the predecessor was completely cut off. Haha, what a shrewd plan, what a ruthless method. There was coldness in Lu Yuan's eyes. He does not blame his predecessor for being stupid, because in order to gain his trust, Luo Ziming took the initiative to get close to Lu Yuan since he was 10 years old, provided him with food and clothing, and even helped him fight with others on several occasions. It took a full 6 years for Lu Yuan to trust him so much. In fact, those scenes of Luo Ziming fighting with others were just him secretly bribed the other party. Don't worry, since I accepted your body, I will naturally help you get revenge. Lu Yuan murmured in his heart. After this voice fell, I suddenly felt a sense of relaxation emerging in my soul, as if I was completely integrated with something. The next moment, a cold female voice appeared in my mind. Ding! The God's Domain Minor Auxiliary System has been activated, and a gift package will be rewarded. Please activate it. Lu Yuan's eyes flashed. He was no stranger to the system, a standard feature for time travelers. Turn on. Ding! You get a Zerg brood. A copy of the complete sequence of the insect nest gene. A copy of the Tyrer's blood. Seeing these rewards given by the system, Lu Yuan couldn't help but smile. Products produced by the system must be of high quality. These things are simply tailor-made for the desert worm in front of you. He is now beginning to look forward to how much his desert worm will change after integrating these rewards. Woohoo! There seemed to be a giant beast whispering in the sky. The originally lazy desert worms raised their heads. Immediately, a billowing cloud of yellow sand swept up from the horizon. The entire divine space was completely enveloped. Chi-chi! All the desert worms made a neighing noise like grains of sand. They instinctively knew that this was divine power. However, they did not see that above the yellow sand in the sky, a huge face made entirely of sand and dust looked down expressionlessly. System, fuse the complete sequence genes of the insect nest. The thought fell. I saw. The complete sequence of the nest's genes in the system space suddenly disappeared. Immediately, above the void, countless particles finer than sand and dust were scattered all at once, covering the entire divine realm like a curtain of rain. 20,000 desert worms watched in a daze as countless particles merged into their bodies. Their instinctive doubts. But the next second, dramatic changes have begun. Whoosh! The painful screams echoed throughout the entire divine space. The body of the desert worm, which was originally nearly 30 centimeters, suddenly stretched to 40 centimeters. The desert yellow skin becomes darker and then turns into a brown skin. The small mouthparts began to expand and turned into a mouth densely covered with barbs. The tentacles under the belly began to grow and turned into fine tentacles, looking even more ferocious. Ouch! The completely mutated desert worms all roared to the sky, as if thanking the great god of natural disasters. Tip, your divine domain has undergone sudden changes, and mysterious substances have merged. Tip, your faith race has changed. Tip, your faith race, desert worm, has evolved into hive larva. Tip, the attributes of the new species have changed dramatically. Seeing the continuous prompts, a smile appeared on Lu Yuan's face. From now on, his desert worm has completely disappeared. In their place are hive larvae with great potential. Open the race interface. A thought. Suddenly a panel opened directly. Race interface. Name, insect nest larva. Category, Zerg. Stage, level 1. Ability, collect, devour, bite. Life, 4. Although not as good as an adult human, it has been greatly strengthened. Strength, 5. Similar to adult humans. Agility, 5. This is the benefit of having more legs. Intelligence, 3. Can be given orders. Evaluation, as an important gathering type among the Zerg, they have specialized vesicles for storing resources, and their attack power is not very strong. Seeing the changes in attributes, Lu Yuan nodded secretly, very satisfied with this improvement. Below, in the entire divine domain, all the hive larvae that have completed their metamorphosis have awakened. They raised their heads and let out sharp, disgusting screams from their mouths. Suddenly, a devout faith rushed into Lu Yuan's body. Tip, your racial belief deepens. Tip, you gained 20,000 faith points. Hint, you gained 20,000 deep believers. Ding. Detect that the host's faith value exceeds 10,000, and start the lottery mode, which can consume 10,000 faith points for the lottery. You actually turned on the lottery function. Lu Yuan raised his eyebrows and subconsciously began to observe the prompts in the system. Soon, he understood that the system could complete the lottery by consuming faith points. But he did not draw the first prize, because the items in his system space have not been completely consumed. Great God of disasters, thank you for giving us such power. I sincerely pray to the God of natural disasters. Voices of prayer from believers fell into Lu Yuan's mind. Original. These desert worms are not very intelligent and do not even have the ability to pray. It's different now. The devout prayers of 20,000 deep believers, even if they are just Zerg, can provide a massive amount of faith. Certainly, Lu Yuan knew that the changes in God's domain had just begun. He thought again and looked at the system space. In the center of God's domain, release the Zerg brood. Boom. The moment the thought falls. I saw that in the center of the divine domain, the dry lake and river bed was rolling violently. A 10-meter wide nest covered with barbs rose from the ground. At the same time, a putrid, pungent smell rose from around the nest. Boom. A low hum emerged from the nest, and then a new thought of prayer rushed into Lu Yuan's mind. Tip, new species have been added to your domain. Tip, you got a fanatical follower. Tip: you have increased your faith by 109 points. Huh, there's actually an extra fanatic. Lu Yuan was a little surprised and subconsciously checked the information about the Zerg nest. Name: Zerg Mother Nest. Category: Zerg. Stage: Level 2. Ability: Larva Breeding, Place of Corruption. Life: 20. A huge body must have abundant physical strength. Strength: 0, unable to move. Agility: 0, unable to move. Intelligence: 6, beyond the intelligence of adults so that it can lead a group of insects. Evaluation: the basic unit that gives birth to the Zerg. As long as it has enough resources, it can continue to reproduce and even advance. Larva breeding. Under the premise of rich nutrition, hundreds of insect nest larvae can be produced every day. Place of corrosion. The soil around the mother nest will gradually deteriorate and become a rotten quagmire. Its function can improve the resilience and agility of Zerg units. Lu Yuan nodded secretly after seeing this information. Because desert worms have lost their ability to reproduce after genetic mutation, the existence of the mother nest directly makes up for this shortcoming. Rustle. The moment the mother nest appeared, all the larvae in the entire god's domain began to spontaneously move towards the mother nest. They retain the food they obtain in their vesicles and simply dump it back into the mother's nest. Then the mother nest can start working. This is the instinct of the Zerg and does not need anyone to teach it. There's only one thing left. Lu Yuan looked at the last thing in the system, the blood of the Ripper. This is blood extracted from a dog-shaped creature. I don't know how much changes it will have on these larvae after fusion. System: fuse the blood of the Ripper to all the insect nest larvae. Wow! In the void, some red blood fell down like smoke again. The insect hive larvae that were still crawling all screamed in pain the moment they received the blood of the Ripper. Roar! Their bodies twisted on the ground, and in the blink of an eye they swelled another 10 centimeters. The figure began to grow taller, the appearance began to become skeletal, and the defense was improving at a speed visible to the naked eye. The 2 compound eyes above the mouth opening began to grow larger, and the front jaw became sharper. 2 rows of teeth as sharp as daggers emerged from the mouth. The original 2 rows of densely packed short legs below turned into 6 thick and sharp claws. During the struggle, he was able to penetrate deeply into the soil without any effort. Tip: your divine species is undergoing mutation. Tip: hive larvae have successfully evolved into tearing springtails. Tip: you have increased your faith value by 43,500 points. Hint: you have added 20,000 fanatic followers. Tear apart springtails. Lu Yuan could not help but feel ecstasy in his heart. He directly opened the race panel. Name: Tier Springtail. Category: Zerg. Stage: Level 1. Ability: Swallow Collection, Strengthen Tearing, Charge active. Life: 6. Chi and blood are stronger than adults. Strength: 6. Can fight an adult with all his strength. Agility: 8. Speed is faster than 90% of adults. Intelligence: 4. Equivalent to a teenager. Evaluation: with the addition of speed, adults' attack power can always produce unexpected gains. At this point, Lu Yuan has completed the transformation of all his existing followers. Moreover, he also gained 20,000 fanatic followers. Lu Yuan knew that the intelligence referring to spiritual power of the Zerg itself could not be compared with that of subhumans or even humans. So even if they are converted into fanatics, they do not provide explosive growth in belief. The amount of belief itself is related to many factors such as the type of race, strength, size, bloodline, etc. So he was not surprised to get such a result. At this time, looking at Lu Yuan's Shinju interface, huge changes have taken place. User: Lu Yuan. God's name: God of Natural Disasters. Faith value: 64,080. Rank: Demigod. Priest: Drought, Sandstorm, Desolation. Sacred Fire: Not lit. Godhead: None. Faith: Race: Zerg Mother Hive, Tier Springtail, Zerg Hive Larva. Believers: Fanatical Believers 20,001, Devout Believers 12, Deep Believers 08, Pan Believers 0. It must be rare to see a demigod with so many beliefs on the first day of school, right? The smile on the corner of Lu Yuan's mouth gradually turned cold. His eyes suddenly looked towards the void in the distance. It's never too late for a gentleman to take revenge for 10 years, and for a villain to take revenge from morning to night. Luo Ziming, it's time to settle our battle. Lu Yuan put his mind through the server and started searching. He wants to find Luo Ziming's divine domain coordinates and launch a divine domain invasion. According to the speed of time in the divine world, 1 day in the main world is 1 year in the divine world. Lu Yuan believes that even if he is given a year to develop, he will never be able to compete with his current followers. Generally speaking, if you want to search for the coordinates of the other party's divine domain, you must know the other party's user number. If you don't know, you may have to search hard among countless people with the same name. Fortunately, Lu Yuan has a system. Ding! The system started the search function and automatically identified the coordinates of Luo Ziming's divine domain. Are you so considerate? Lu Yuan looked at the location marked by the system, with an evil smile on his lips. The invasion begins. On the other side, Luo Ziming is immersed in development in his own divine space. His chosen disciple race is the subhuman race, the lizardmen. This race living in the desert has a natural tolerance to the environment. Both individual quality and combat effectiveness are superior to many other races. It was precisely because of this race that he won the title of the #1 genius in the first year of high school. More importantly, Luo Ziming had exchanged the intermediate resource cards defrauded from Lu Yuan into a large amount of volcanic red crystal ore and lizardman breeding rations. Of these two things, the former can give lizardmen a chance to mutate. The latter naturally accelerates the other party's reproduction process. The number of believers is the foundation of godhood. In just 1 year, the number of lizardmen in the entire divine space has successfully grown from 200 to 400. Not only had the number doubled, but what made Luo Ziming even more delighted was that nearly 100 lizardmen had undergone minor mutations due to their continuous consumption of volcanic red crystal ore. The originally withered yellow lizard skin all over his body had turned red and even increased in thickness. Both cold resistance and drought resistance have been horribly improved. The lizardmen have been successfully upgraded into volcanic lizardmen. Luo Ziming even spent his own money to buy a basic iron ore card and equip these lizardmen with simple metal javelins and short blades. Looking at the initially armed lizard people, Luo Ziming had a proud smile on his face. In terms of strength, I am now strong enough to sweep through the entire freshman year of high school. Haha, Lu Yuan, all this is thanks to your help. Luo Ziming's muttering just disappeared. Suddenly, an urgent prompt came from the divine space. Alert, your divine domain is being invaded by mysterious forces. Alert, the mysterious force will arrive in 10 minutes. Alert, the countdown starts now. Alert, please make deployment as soon as possible. Who dares to invade my divine domain? Luo Ziming's expression changed when he heard the siren, and then he saw a dialog box pop up on the God's domain interface in front of him. Are you ready for retribution? There is only a short sentence, but the user's name is clearly written, Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan. Luo Ziming was stunned for a moment, then suddenly laughed wildly. Ha ha ha, who I thought it was, turns out to be you, a loser. There was a ferocious light in his eyes. No drug, no husband. Since he had planned to use Lu Yuan as his pawn, he naturally would not have the slightest sympathy at this time. Okay, today I will let you take your believer's sacrificial flag first, so that you can know how big the gap is between us. Luo Ziming's thoughts suddenly came to his divine realm. Before long, 400 fully armed lizardmen were ready. Alert, mysterious forces are invading. Alert, countdown 008. Alert, please make deployment as soon as possible. At the moment when the countdown ended, Luo Ziming suddenly looked up. In the northeast of God's domain, the originally gray boundary of God's domain suddenly appeared with cracks like glass. As soon as the cracks appeared, they spread like a spider web. There was just a crisp sound, and the piece of glass shattered. Later, Luo Ziming saw Lu Yuan standing far above the void. Lu Yuan, I didn't expect that your brain would be so full of water, and you still dare to invade my divine realm. The contemptuous laughter reached Lu Yuan's ears at the divine level. Lu Yuan's face did not waver at all. He just opened his mouth and spat out a sentence. Revenge begins. His will communicated with the divine realm interface, and with a thought, he directly activated his priesthood. Sandstorm. Drought and desolation are not of much help to the lizard people who already live in the desert. So, Lu Yuan just launched his own sandstorm. Tip, you have consumed 100 faith points. Prompt, you launched a clerical sandstorm. Ding. System small auxiliary startup. Ding. The sandstorm launched by the host has been strengthened. Woo. Yellow sand all over the sky suddenly rose up from the crack, and fine grains of sand mixed with gravel poured into Luo Ziming's divine realm like a tsunami. The battle of gods has begun. Seeing this scene, Luo Ziming laughed wildly. Ha ha ha, Lu Yuan, have you forgotten that my followers are not afraid of this at all? His spiritual thoughts were instantly transmitted to his followers. Suddenly, all the lizards let out ferocious roars, waved their weapons, and ran headlong into the churning sandstorm. However, what Luo Ziming didn't expect was, the moment the lizardmen rushed into the sandstorm, the originally raging sandstorm came to an abrupt end. Ha ha, is your faith worthless? The sneer on Luo Ziming's face had not yet dissipated. I saw the silhouette of the Zerg originally hidden in the sandstorm gradually revealed. In an instant, his smile was replaced by incomparable shock. There was even a changed scream coming from his mouth. Are you a desert worm? A ferocious figure, only half a meter long, covered in dark brown skin and bone armor, was crawling on the ground. 6 thick lower limbs were rubbing restlessly on the ground. Between the opening and closing of the big mouth covered with mucus, 2 rows of sharp teeth flashed coldly. No matter how you look at it, this ferocious appearance cannot be associated with the desert worm. More importantly, is this too much? Luo Ziming glanced at it, which made his scalp numb. How come you have so many followers? He screamed in disbelief. Why do you think I want to release Sandstorm? Lu Yuan's indifferent voice emerged. In the void, a churning yellow sand enveloped his figure, turning into a huge human face, which gradually emerged from the air. Coupled with the raging yellow sand around them, and the desolate sky in the divine realm behind them, Luo Ziming felt even more oppressed. Because, I want to catch all your followers in one fell swoop. The moment Lu Yuan finished speaking, below, 20,000 tearing springtails let out sharp roars and hisses. Ouch! For the great god of natural disasters. For the light of natural disaster to sweep everything away. For the glory of the ancestor god. Let's fight. Ouch! Amidst countless roars, the tearing springtail instantly unleashed its active ability, Charge. Buzz. In an instant, a scarlet color appeared in the dark yellow compound eyes of the tearing springtail. It was as if there was a restless force rising from within his body. In an instant, it blends into their lower limbs. Whoosh! Acceleration like a 100-meter sprint emerged from the tearing springtail. 20,000 tear springtails turned into a dark brown wave and surrounded the 400 lizardmen. Now, the originally aggressive group of lizardmen had become completely sluggish. They watched those ferocious, ugly, disgusting bugs rushing toward them. The reason in his mind has been swallowed up by panic. So much so that the combat effectiveness is greatly reduced. Certainly, even if you don't discount it, it's of no use at all. In the face of sheer numbers, even the mutated volcanic lizardmen were useless. All the lizardmen were roaring and shouting in despair. They didn't expect that they would face such a terrifying enemy. Ah, what kind of monster is this? Help, great ancestor god, please save us. No. No, I don't want to die. Tisk tisk tisk. The sound of teeth clenching was heard everywhere. As long as an ordinary lizardman is bitten by a tearing springtail, his scale armor will be broken. After a few mouthfuls, it was already bloody and bloody. Even the mutated volcanic lizard man can only resist for a few seconds with the volcanic crystal scales on his body. Under the siege of dozens or hundreds of tearing springtails, every bit of it was eaten away in the blink of an eye. 400 versus 20,000, it was a completely one-sided massacre. Mid-air, looking at the believers who had suffered heavy casualties in just a few minutes, Luo Ziming was so frightened that his hands and feet went cold. Once all his followers are killed, his domain will suffer a devastating blow. The so-called reputation of genius will completely fall from the altar. Lu Yuan, I was wrong. Isn't it okay that I was wrong? Luo Ziming knelt down directly to Lu Yuan. Please stop, I am willing to compensate you, as long as I can do whatever I can to satisfy you. I just beg you to stop. Quote, he begged desperately. However, from beginning to end, Lu Yuan's eyes didn't waver at all. Cut the grass without eradicating its roots, but it will grow again when the spring breeze blows. He would never do the same stupid thing again. If it weren't for the fact that it was difficult to kill the opponent's god in the divine space, Lu Yuan wouldn't even mind taking Luo Ziming's life as well. Seeing that all his followers are about to be reduced to food for tearing springtails, Luo Ziming let out a vicious cry. Lu Yuan, just wait, I won't let you go. It is against school rules to invade other people's divine domain without permission. Just wait to accept the sanction. Quote, sanctions, humph. Lu Yuan snorted coldly and did not respond. The last lizard man was completely devoured by the bites of numerous tearing springtails. Wherever the Zerg go, there is always no trace of armor left. Tip, your believer race will completely annihilate the enemy's divine race with absolute superiority. Tip, your followers feel the influence of God's glory. Tip, you have increased your faith value by 21,547. Ding. Get extra rewards, giant lizard claws. Ding. Get additional rewards, volcanic red crystal. Looking at the continuous prompt messages on the God's domain interface, a smile appeared on Lu Yuan's lips. This time, he not only won, and there were additional rewards. With a thought, he left Luo Ziming's divine space. Next, he was ready to take stock of his harvest. But at this moment, a communication request actually popped up from the God's domain interface. Tip, an external user initiates a call request. Tip, user name Ning Yun. Prompt, are you connected? Ning Yun. Lu Yuan couldn't help but raise his eyebrows when he saw the interface prompt message. Ning Yun is the head teacher of class 3 of their middle school, and Lu Yuan has met her since the beginning of school. But at that time, he was just a little transparent and didn't attract too much attention from the other party. Now he actually takes the initiative to contact him. For a moment, Lu Yuan thought of a possibility, that was Luo Ziming just now. Connect the communication. Lu Yuan knew that this kind of thing could not be avoided, so he immediately chose to answer the call. The scene in front of him flashed, and a holographic figure appeared directly in front of Lu Yuan. The moment he saw this figure, Lu Yuan couldn't help but his eyes lit up. Although Ning Yun is the head teacher, she is only about 20 years old. He is the youngest among all the class teachers. At this time, the opponent had long black wavy hair hanging down the back of his head, and his excellent appearance exceeded 90 points, which was unforgettable at a glance. Wearing a dark purple leather jacket, she highlighted her perfect proportions. Especially the exaggerated arc, perfectly restored by the holographic projection, made Lu Yuan unable to help but secretly smack his lips. He subconsciously shrank his body to avoid any embarrassing reaction from others. Ahem, Teacher Ning, do you have anything to do with me? In the picture, Ning Yun's face looked serious. Lu Yuan, Luo Ziming from Class 10 just reported to the school, saying that you invaded his divine domain without permission and caused immeasurable losses. Is this the case? Lu Yuan's eyes flashed, and it turned out to be because of this incident. But the expression on his face did not change at all because of Ning Yun's question. There was a 2-second pause. Lu Yuan nodded calmly. Yes, I did it. I not only invaded his divine domain, but also annihilated all his believer races. Lu Yuan opened his mouth and told all the facts. This kind of thing cannot be hidden at all. After he finished speaking, he was ready to accept Ning Yun's questioning. However, after Ning Yun heard this, there was no trace of anger on her face. Instead, she looked at Lu Yuan with her eyes as bright as gems. Why? Tell me why. Lu Yuan looked at the beautiful head teacher in front of him with some surprise. Unexpectedly, the other party didn't get angry. Seeing Lu Yuan stunned, Ning Yun continued. It is common sense that invading other people's divine domain is a violation of law, you can't help but know that. I believe that when you do this, you must have your own secrets. So, I need you to tell me the ins and outs of all this so that I can make a judgment. My students, Ning Yun, cannot be moved by anyone who wants to. Quote. After hearing this, a trace of surprise flashed in Lu Yuan's eyes. He didn't expect that the head teacher would be so protective of his shortcomings. Moreover, judging from the way the other person spoke, he seemed to be very confident. With a slight smile, Lu Yuan opened his mouth and made it clear about the holiday between himself and Luo Ziming. After Ning Yun heard this, her beautiful eyebrows wrinkled. What a good Luo Ziming. He did a good job in invading. This despicable villain should be treated like this. As soon as she finished speaking, she suddenly wondered. No, I remember that the believer race you chose is not desert worm. How could he annihilate all his lizardmen? Quote, Lu Yuan smiled slightly when he heard this. Teacher, my desert worm has mutated, you can take a look. As he spoke, he opened his divine domain authority to Ning Yun. In an instant, Ning Yun saw the densely mutated torn springtails in Lu Yuan's divine domain space. Oh my god, has it really mutated? Ning Yun's face showed uncontrollable ecstasy. She clapped her hands and laughed. Great, I didn't expect you to be so powerful. Even desert worms can induce mutations. Let's go. The principal is waiting for us to come over. Don't worry, the teacher is here and I will never dare to touch you. Next, Ning Yun pulled Lu Yuan into a public communication area. Lu Yuan only felt the scene in front of him change, and he was already standing in a virtual room. There are already 3 figures in the room. One of them is Luo Ziming, and the tall man next to him is his class teacher Zhao Hu. And in the middle is the principal of No. 1 Middle School, Hong Qinghe. Principal, Lu Yuan from our class is here. Ning Yun stood beside Lu Yuan and said directly. Hong Qinghe nodded. Okay, now everyone is here. Lu Yuan, let me ask you, did you invade Luo Ziming's divine domain? Yes, it's me. Lu Yuan admitted it directly. Aha, principal, did you see it? When Zhao Hu heard this, he jumped out immediately. It is a very serious violation to invade other people's divine domain without authorization. What's more, it has caused extremely serious damage to Luo Ziming in our class and must be severely punished. Luo Ziming was the top student in his class. Such a genius was actually invaded by others. Teacher Zhao Hu couldn't bear it anymore, so he immediately found the principal for arbitration. Principal, Luo Ziming took away Lu Yuan's intermediate resource card by deception. I have just found the transaction records of him using intermediate resource cards to exchange for other resources. And the resource card number exactly matches the resource card number purchased by Lu Yuan. Quote. Ning Yun immediately stood up to refute. Besides, students like Luo Ziming, who after consuming a lot of resources, can't even resist a race of believers like the desert worm, really deserve the reputation of being a genius in No. 1 Middle School. Such a result is entirely his own fault. Quote, desert worm. Principal Hong Qinghe raised his eyebrows. Teacher Ning, you may be mistaken. Desert worms have no attack power. That's right. A smile appeared on Ning Yun's face, because Lu Yuan mutated the desert worm in just 1 day. What? The principal and teacher Zhao Hu exclaimed at the same time. It is simply a fantasy for a race of believers like the desert worm to mutate in just 1 day. However, when they saw Lu Yuan's open divine realm, everyone gasped in shock. It really mutated, and there were still 20,000 mutated animals. Ha ha, Hong Qinghe's laughter just started. He seemed to feel that something was wrong with the current situation, so he suppressed it forcibly. Principal, regardless of whether Lu Yuan's desert worm has mutated or not, his intrusion into other people's divine domain is a violation of the rules and must be severely punished. Teacher Zhao Hu couldn't help but argue with reason. Indeed, severe punishment must be imposed. Hong Qinghe nodded in agreement. He turned to look at Lu Yuan, and his tone suddenly became stern. Classmate Lu Yuan, in view of the mistakes you made, the school has decided to punish you by depriving you of the right to use the divine realm. What? Lu Yuan couldn't help but change his expression after hearing this, and deprived him of the right to use the divine domain. Isn't this punishment too serious? However, before he could speak, the principal continued. However, if you are willing to issue a military order and win first place in the preliminary examination 5 days later, the above punishment can be cancelled. Do you dare? Lu Yuan couldn't help but his eyes moved after hearing this. It sounded like this punishment was very serious. But he knew that with his current strength, it would not be easy to crush all the classmates in the grade in the preliminary examination. So, in essence, it's not much of a punishment at all. Sure enough, geniuses are given preferential treatment wherever they go. Lu Yuan laughed in his heart. Before he invaded Luo Ziming's divine domain, he had already thought about how to express his potential to the school. He believed that as long as he showed enough talent, the school would definitely know how to choose between genius and mediocrity. No, the preferential treatment has already begun. Luo Ziming, who had never spoken, naturally heard the bias in the principal's words. He suddenly said with a sad and angry look, "Principal, is this punishment too childish? With his current strength, he has a high chance of winning the championship." Before he finished speaking, a powerful aura suddenly burst out from Principal Hong Qinghei's eyes. An aura that was completely beyond the reach of a demigod made Luo Ziming's face turn pale instantly, and even his subsequent words stopped abruptly. "Are you questioning the school's decision?" Hong Qinghei's low words sounded. "No, I don't dare." Luo Ziming was immediately frightened. Beside, feeling the aura emanating from the principal, Zhao Hu's expression also changed. He was about to speak when he saw Hong Qinghei wave his hand. "Forget it, Teacher Zhao, you don't have to say anything. I will also give Luo Ziming a chance," Hong Qinghei said in a deep voice. "Whether it's him or any other student, as long as he can defeat Lu Yuan in the test, the school will bear all Luo Ziming's losses." Quote, real. Luo Ziming, who was already desperate, suddenly burst into light. If the school can bear his losses, so, it's not impossible for him to have a chance to return to the top. You can even go one step further. Of course it's true. Hong Qinghei nodded and said, "Not only that, the school can also provide you with an additional 20 million general points as compensation." What? Luo Ziming's body was trembling slightly. If the principal hadn't been in front of him, he would have jumped up with excitement. A blessing in disguise. He never expected that he would get such a big reward after losing all the Lizardman believers. You know, the intermediate resource card he defrauded from Lu Yuan only cost more than 2 million general points. Now that he has 20 million in hand, he can soar into the sky. Okay, I agree to your terms. Luo Ziming nodded without thinking. Okay, now you don't have any objections, right? Hong Qinghei glanced at everyone. If nothing happens, just leave. Yes, Principal. Zhao Hu nodded, and then the two figures of Luo Ziming slowly disappeared. Seeing the two people leaving, Hong Qinghei suddenly had an inexplicable smile on his face, looked at Lu Yuan next to him and said, "How is it? Do you have confidence?" "No." Lu Yuan's words stunned both the principal and Ning Yun. "You actually have no confidence." Hong Qinghei frowned slowly. If he doesn't have the heart of a brave man, he won't be able to go far in the future. Lu Yuan smiled and rubbed his hands after hearing this. "I didn't have confidence at first, but if I get a little more help, I might have confidence." Lu Yuan has never lacked confidence, but he heard that the school was actually willing to spend 20 million general points to compensate the other party. If he didn't want any benefits at this time, he wouldn't be Lu Yuan. Seeing Lu Yuan's expression, Hong Qinghei suddenly laughed. "Haha, you are quite interesting." As he spoke, he raised his hand. Two cards emerged from his hand. These are two primary resource cards. You can use them to develop first. As long as you can win, I will come up with better rewards for you during the test. With that said, Hong Qinghei flicked his fingers, and the two cards fell into Lu Yuan's hands. Lu Yuan felt happy when he saw this, and subconsciously reached out to pick it up. But Ning Yun next to him suddenly stretched out her jade hand and held down his arm. Lu Yuan was stunned for a moment and looked at Ning Yun subconsciously. Ning Yun looked up at Hong Qinghei. "Principal, 2 junior resource cards are too stingy. Add more." Lu Yuan's lips twitched. Are all teachers so arrogant nowadays? Are you blatantly negotiating terms with the principal? But what surprised him was that the principal was not angry at all after hearing this, but instead laughed. "Teacher Ning Yun, my divine domain is also in the expansion stage recently, things." Before the principal could finish speaking, Ning Yun interrupted directly. "Add one more intermediate resource card." This should have belonged to Lu Yuan, but he was deceived by that Luo Ziming. "That's okay." The principal opened his mouth, and finally took out another intermediate resource card and threw it to Lu Yuan. The next moment he left without even saying hello. He was afraid that if he didn't leave, what if Ning Yun would blackmail her again? "Thank you, teacher." Lu Yuan didn't expect Ning Yun's words to be so effective, and immediately bowed slightly to the other party. "Why are you grateful? The school should have trained more students with potential like you." Ning Yun looked at Lu Yuan and suddenly said seriously. "Lu Yuan, although 5 days will not allow the divine realm to develop much, you cannot take it lightly. As far as I know, Luo Ziming's true identity is not an orphan like you. Quote. His ancestors belong to a branch of the Luo family in Blood River City. You don't know about the Luo family in Blood River City, right? The Luo family of Hell Blood. Lu Yuan raised his eyebrows. The bloodline related to Hell has always been synonymous with power. The Blood River Luo family is very famous even in the entire Emerald Federation. Luo Ziming's ancestors have passed away, but it is not ruled out that he will contact the Blood River Luo family. Ning Yun thought for a while, then suddenly reached out and took out a card and handed it to Lu Yuan. This is an intermediate Divine Realm opening card. Make good use of it and don't slack off these days. Intermediate Divine Domain opening card. Lu Yuan's pupils shrank. The value of the God's Domain opening card was more valuable than the resource card. But this one will exceed 10 million universal points. He also didn't expect that Ning Yun would be so generous to him. At this time, Lu Yuan reached out and took the card without any pretense. Thank you, teacher, I will definitely live up to your expectations. Okay, you can mutate the desert worm, so you must not waste your talent. Okay, I won't waste your time anymore, get ready. Goodbye. Goodbye, teacher. After separating from Ning Yun, Lu Yuan returned directly to his divine realm. Although he is very confident in his tearing springtail, Lu Yuan is not careless. Be careful with Wanian ship, he didn't want to give Luo Ziming a chance to make a comeback. Boom, the void shook, and countless sand and dust once again gathered into a huge face in midair. All the Zerg believers subconsciously raised their heads at this moment. They know that their Lord has arrived. Great God of natural disasters, please accept the prayers of believers. Thank you for the glory of the great Lord shining on us. The sounds of prayers came to Lu Yuan's ears, but he didn't pay much attention to them. His eyes looked towards the system space, and the newly acquired items suddenly appeared. Lizard Claw. The claw gene obtained from the lizard man will produce unknown mutations once fused, greatly increasing the target's attack power and increasing its strength by 2 points. Volcanic Red Crystal. Crystalline powder containing rich fire elements. After fusion, it will enhance the target's defense and fire resistance. A very nice reward. A smile appeared at the corner of Lu Yuan's mouth. Talk to the system directly. Give all the tearing springtails the fusion of giant lizard claws and volcanic red crystal. Ding. Item collection. Fusion begins. Just listen to a prompt sound. 2 items in the system space were extracted at once. At the same time, countless dust-like light spots emerged in the divine space. In a blink of an eye, it fell on 20,000 tearing springtails and began to merge. Ouch! The extremely painful fusion began again. The body size of the tearing springtail, which was already nearly half a meter long, increased again, reaching 60 centimeters. Red crystals began to appear on the bone's surface, looking like red armor. The 6 originally sharp thighs became thicker and the ends became sharper. What's even more amazing is that the 2 front thighs actually began to twist, detached from the ground, and turned into forelimbs like arms. The ends of the forelimbs began to bifurcate and turned into sharp scimitars. In a moment, the entire tearing springtail became more powerful. Tip: your believer race is undergoing mutation. Tip: your believer race has added new abilities. Hint: their faith has deepened. Tip: you have gained 38,456 faith points. Watching the prompts sound from the God's Domain panel one after another, Lu Yuan knew that the entire mutation had been completed. He subconsciously opened the race panel. Name: Tier Springtail. Category: Zerg. Stage: Level 1. Ability: Swallowing and Gathering, Strength and Tearing, Charge, Active Claw Slashing, Fire Resistance. Life: 7, the pinnacle of adulthood. Strength: 8, adults are no match either. Agility: 8, speed is faster than 90% of adults. Intelligence: 4, equivalent to a teenager. Evaluation: the defense has been enhanced, and the adaptability to harsh environments has increased. The mutated claws not only look fierce, but also have equally fierce attack power. It seems that there are no changes, but the addition of 2 passive abilities and the improvement of the strength attribute have further enhanced the tearing springtail. Nodding with satisfaction, Lu Yuan took out a few of his cards again. It's time to expand the divine domain. Use the intermediate God realm opening card. Following Lu Yuan's order, In the God's Domain interface, the originally existing intermediate God's Domain opening card suddenly disappeared. Next moment, great changes began to occur in the entire Divine Domain. The surrounding void began to churn. The edge of the originally vast land began to spread towards the surrounding area. Creation of the void. This is a powerful rule change. With Lu Yuan's demigod ability, it is simply impossible to do it. But he has the God Realm login device, which is a powerful machine born from the wisdom of countless main worlds. Only the existence of the God's Domain login device can accomplish what Lu Yuan cannot accomplish with the assistance of various cards. The more contact he had, the more powerful and terrifying Lu Yuan felt in the main world. The land stretches and forests grow. Lu Yuan chose a multi-terrain environment where forests, lakes and grasslands coexist. The cost of this model is relatively high, but it also comes with some natural resources. And these resources will become the natural rations of the Zerg. The Zerg race is called a natural disaster. One of the important reasons is because of their appetite. All things can be devoured. Seeing that the realm of gods was constantly opening up, Lu Yuan turned his attention to other cards. As soon as he stretched out his hand, again, 2 primary resource cards and 1 intermediate resource card were taken out. Directly exchange it for rations that the Zerg like to eat. With a wave of his hand, countless nutritious rations fell from the sky like hills. A miracle. This is a miracle sent by the God of natural disasters. Thank you to the Great Master, the Almighty God of natural disasters. Countless springtails began to pray and eat like crazy. These rations can not only keep the springtails full, but also allow them to collect. Feed the nutrients back to the Zerg mother nest. With a steady supply of nutrients, the Zerg mother nest will continue to produce larvae. The larvae can continue to mutate into tearing springtails. Lu Yuan believed that after 5 days, he would definitely harvest a large army of Zerg. Lu Yuan took a look at his faith value. He did not forget the lottery function of the system. Only, he didn't spend the tens of thousands of faith points immediately. Because the prizes in the lottery are subject to a certain degree of randomness. He planned to wait for the faith value to accumulate again before conducting the lottery. With a thought, he left the divine space directly. In the dormitory of No. 1 middle school, Lu Yuan opened the door of the login device and walked out of it. In order to ensure the privacy and safety of students themselves, the school's dormitories are all single-occupancy dormitories. Lu Yuan opened the internet and started searching for Zerg-related information. Regarding the future changes in the development of the Zerg, we need to further study. It just so happened that he could study it carefully during these 5 days. At the same time Lu Yuan left the Divine Realm space. Luo Ziming was talking with the class teacher Zhao Hu. Teacher Zhao, you also heard about the reward just now. You must help me. Help you? How? Zhao Hu snorted coldly, your current strength is no different than trash. If it weren't for the fact that your ancestors are related to the Blood River Luo family, I would never argue with the principal. In his opinion, Luo Ziming's potential has been exhausted. Not worth cultivating at all. So the attitude suddenly changed. A cold look flashed across Luo Ziming's eyes. Still smiling, he said, Teacher Zhao, I only need you to lend me 10 million general points. As long as I can defeat Lu Yuan, each of us will receive half of the 20 million reward. Half each. Zhao Hu's eyes moved after hearing this. To be honest, he was moved. 10 million universal points is a considerable fortune for him, the teacher who has ignited the divine fire. If you can get it just by borrowing a common point, it's not that you can't consider it. Only, you are already like this, how sure are you of defeating Lu Yuan? Zhao Hu expressed doubts. HMPH. Teacher Zhao, have you forgotten? My ancestor is a branch of the Blood River Luo family. Luo Ziming laughed coldly. Although our lineage has been abandoned, the Blood River Luo family promised to help me as long as I return with the token left by my ancestors. Are you telling the truth? Zhao Hu thought, if Luo Ziming could really persuade the Zue Luo family to help, maybe there is a real chance of winning. Of course, I swear on my life. Luo Ziming promised. Okay, I borrowed this general point, but I don't have that much now. You wait until I think of a solution. Zhao Hu pondered for a moment and nodded heavily. Okay, thank you teacher. Luo Ziming quickly thanked him. In the depths of his eyes, a hint of evil and madness gradually emerged. Lu Yuan, just wait, you will know how miserable the consequences will be if you offend me, Luo Ziming. 5 days passed in the blink of an eye. All freshmen in Cayenne City No. 1 middle school had received notice of the preliminary exam 5 days ago. Everyone is preparing intensively. Only Lu Yuan wandered around leisurely for 5 days. There is almost nothing to do every day except checking information. Finally, on the 5th night, he entered the login cabin again. Connect to the divine realm. With a thought, Lu Yuan's consciousness was pulled into the mysterious space again. As soon as he appeared, a series of prompts sounded on the God's domain interface. Record, your divine domain has expanded. Record, thousands of bushes have grown in your divine domain. Record, a lake has appeared in your divine domain, and there are swarms of white fish in it. Record, the Zerg mother nest is eating, and more larvae appear. Record, the springtails devoured the shrubs, and the shrubs disappeared. Record, the springtails drank the lakes dry and the white fish disappeared. Record, your followers have increased. Record, you gained 200,000 faith points. Looking at the dense record prompts, Lu Yuan simply chose to ignore them. With a thought, he came directly to his divine realm. Ouch! The wind howled and the yellow sand rolled. A huge face made entirely of yellow sand reappeared in midair. Below, countless newly born larvae and the original group of tearing springtails all looked up. There is incomparable piety in the thought. They knew that the Great Master, the god of natural disasters, had arrived. Lu Yuan looked down from a high altitude and saw that the entire divine domain was more than 10 times larger than before. The vast space allows countless larvae and springtails to move freely. But, the land that was originally green and fertile has now turned into a desolate land. Lu Yuan didn't care. As the god of natural disasters, he was the incarnation of natural disasters. No matter how good the environment is, it will be riddled with holes under the ravages of natural disasters. Open the God's domain interface. Lu Yuan withdrew his gaze and directly checked the information changes on the God's domain interface in the past few days. God's domain interface. Area: 500 hectares. Environment: forest, lake, grassland disappeared. Vegetation: composite broad-leaved forest disappeared. Animal: monkey group disappeared, snake group disappeared. Mineral deposits: none. Evaluation: the rich resources have disappeared, and only the evil and ugly Zerg are crawling on the earth. The future may not be dim. Most of the information has not changed at all, only the area of the divine domain has expanded. At the same time, the evaluation of the divine realm has also become unpredictable. After taking a look, Lu Yuan continued to check his own god's information. User: Lu Yuan. God's name: God of Natural Disasters. Faith value: 480,000. Rank: Demigod. Priest: Drought, Sandstorm, Desolation. Sacred Fire: not lit. Godhead: none. Faith race: Tier Springtail, Insect Hive Larva, Zerg Mother Hive. Believers: Fanatical Believers 36,089, Devout Believers 140,000, Deep Believers 13,891, Pan Believers 0. Nearly 200,000. Seeing that he had gained so many followers at once, Lu Yuan couldn't help but gasp. In just 5 years, the Zerg mother nest has been able to reproduce larvae of this size. This shows its terrifying breeding ability. And this is still the initial stage of the Zerg mother nest. If the level increases in the future, many incredible abilities will burst out. After excluding the original 20,000, nearly 180,000 larvae remained. Lu Yuan decided to transform them all in one go. System: give all larvae the blood of the Ripper, the lizard claws and the volcanic red crystal. Ding! Fusion begins. In the god's domain, countless sand and dust fell from the sky again. All the larvae began to roar and roar, completing the transformation that their kind had experienced before. Tip: your believer race is undergoing mutation. Tip: your disciple race hive larvae successfully evolved into tearing springtails. Hint: you have 140,000 devout believers converted into fanatic believers. Tip: you have gained 300,000 faith points. A smile appeared on Lu Yuan's face. In the textbook, it is repeatedly emphasized that faith is the most important support for gods. How to cultivate your own followers is the most important issue for every god. Reveal a miracle. Use the power of the priesthood to make believers fearful. Then increase the faith value. However, this method is emphasized again and again in the classroom. It's no longer appropriate to be here in Lu Yuan. The thinking of the Zerg is simpler than that of the beasts, which also results in their beliefs being purer. Once chosen, I will contribute everything I have without reservation. Even the weakest larvae are deep believers at the lowest level, and there are no pan-believers at all. Lu Yuan glanced at the faith value on the interface. A total of 780,000. Let me ask, which demigod can gain so much faith in just 5 days? This time, Lu Yuan finally felt confident. You can try something that you have always wanted to do but haven't done yet. Lottery. By consuming 10,000 faith points, you can draw a lottery once in the system. All faith values can be drawn a total of 78 times. But Lu Yuan is not so reckless. He was going to take out 100,000 to try his luck. See if you are a non-chief or a European god. System, spend 100,000 faith points to conduct a lottery. The words have fallen. The system prompt appears. Ding. Faith points are consumed and the lottery begins. Ding. Congratulations to the host for winning 666 points of faith. Ding. Congratulations to the host for winning the bone spur armor. Ding. Congratulations to the host for catching the tooth of the pathogen. Comma. Among the continuous beeps, Lu Yuan discovered that most of them were faith values. Useful. There are only 2 types of draws out of 10. Bone spur armor, germ fang. Bone spur armor, sharp armor filled with ferocious bone spurs. After installation, it can improve the target's defense and comes with spike attack. Germ teeth, teeth contaminated with countless germs in the hive rot. After installation, the target's bite force and infection ability can be increased. After reading the detailed introduction of the 2 major rewards, Lu Yuan nodded secretly. Whether it's bone spur armor or germ fang, it can greatly increase the combat effectiveness of the tier springtail. So, no need to hesitate. System, install all bone spur armor and germ fang for me. Buzz. The entire divine realm trembled. A grand, mysterious, and endlessly majestic voice slowly sounded. My followers, I have heard your prayers. Now, accept the gift. Light like dust scatters in the space. The next moment, all the tearing springtails that had been praying devoutly suddenly let out a shrill roar. Kakaka. Continuous crisp sounds emerged from their bodies. Dark brown bone spurs grew out of the skin, and in the blink of an eye they grew into dozens of centimeters of bone spurs and covered the entire body. A disgusting smell emerged from the originally ferocious mouth. Dark yellow viscous liquid flowed from the teeth. Looking even more disgusting than before. Tip, your believer race has undergone a mutation. Tip, your believer race has new abilities. Tip, you have gained 120,000 faith points. Tip, the faith of the believer race has deepened. Name, tier springtail. Category, Zerg. Stage, level 1. Ability, swallowing and gathering. Strength and tearing. Charge, active, claw slashing. Fire resistance, bacterial infection, armor stabbing, active. Life, 7, the pinnacle of adulthood. Strength, 8, adults are no match either. Agility, 8, speed is faster than 90% of adults. Intelligence, 4, equivalent to a teenager. Evaluation, the defense has been enhanced, and the adaptability to harsh environments has increased. The mutated claws not only look fierce, but also have equally fierce attack power. Lu Yuan scanned the race interface, but the rest of the values did not change. Instead, there are 2 new abilities. Bacterial infection, the teeth of the springtail are highly infectious. Once the bite breaks through the opponent's defense, the germs will spread, which can reduce the target's health. Armor burst, the bone spurs on the armor are stretchable and usually hidden inside the armor. They can burst out suddenly at critical moments, causing fatal damage to the enemy. Seeing these 2 abilities, Lu Yuan couldn't help but get excited. One reduces the opponent's health, in other words blood volume. Lower blood volume means it is easier to be killed. And the second armored thrust is simply an extremely powerful weapon that bursts out suddenly. Seeing how powerful these 2 abilities were, Lu Yuan's heart suddenly felt itchy. The lottery is fun for a while, and the lottery will always be fun. Mad, done. System, let me spend 300,000 faith points to draw a lottery. Lu Yuan was enthusiastic and gave direct instructions to the system. Ding. The faith value has been consumed and the lottery begins. Ding. Congratulations to the host for winning the swimming fin. Ding. Congratulations to the host for winning 99 points of faith. Ding. Congratulations to the host for winning the Murloc skill. Ding. Congratulations to the host for winning the mental giant brain consumable. Comma. In Lu Yuan's opinion, you can get 2 good things in every 10 draws. What's more, he directly fired 30 consecutive draws. Sure enough, the system lived up to expectations. Among the 30 draws, I won several good rewards. Gills of the Murloc, swimming fins, psychic giant brain, consumable. Murloc's gills, a special organ from the Murloc tribe. After being installed, the target can have the ability to breathe in the water. Swimming fin, an exclusive organ for aquatic fishes. After being installed, it can make the target swim faster in the water. Psychic giant brain, consumable, a brain that looks full of grooves. Once used, it can cause mental changes in a single target. Is this creating an amphibious army for me? The first 2 abilities made Lu Yuan unable to help but think of this idea. Although the Zerg can survive underwater, they are naturally incomparable to real aquatic creatures. But having these 2 things directly makes up for the lack of underwater capabilities. Certainly, what surprised Lu Yuan the most was the last reward. Mental giant brain. Although it can only be used by 1 unit, the changes produced are definitely higher than he imagined. Maybe it can even be advanced. Resist the urge to jump right in. Lu Yuan directly ordered the system. System, install Murloc skills and swimming fins on all the tearing springtails. Ding. Installation begins. Throughout the divine space, the tearing springtails that had just completed their transformation once again saw the mysterious sand and dust in the sky. Then, roars sounded one after another. The ferocious-looking tearing springtails, which were originally nearly 1 meter tall, began a new round of mutation. With a hissing sound, the muscles on both sides of their heads were torn apart, and 2 organs like fish gills grew out. And at the joints under the body, a thin layer of flesh grows out. Tip, your believer race is mutating. Tip, your believer race has added new abilities. Tip, you have gained 60,000 faith points. Comma. The increase in faith has been reduced. In this regard, Lu Yuan was not surprised. Believers' beliefs are not static. After continuous contributions, new time is needed for accumulation. In contrast, he was more concerned about the changes in the tearing springtail. Really, after mutating, the tierling has gained 2 new abilities. Underwater breathing and swimming mastery. These 2 abilities do not require much explanation, and can be clearly understood just from the words. The Ripper springtail changed from a land-based bandit to an amphibious one. This change made Lu Yuan feel very comfortable. But, what's more comfortable is yet to come. His thoughts swept through the layers of tearing springtails, and a majestic voice echoed over the entire divine realm. Who is willing to accept my gift of independence? The moment the sound sounded, countless tearing springtails let out sharp screams. The thoughts in my mind began to boil. My lord, please choose me. I am willing to give everything. Great God of natural disasters, please grant your humble servant the gift of grace. Comma. Suddenly, Lu Yuan's gaze rested on one of the many tearing springtails. It is slightly larger than other springtails. Now, he was standing on a rock, looking up to the sky and neighing. Seeing this scene, Lu Yuan couldn't help but smile. You are the one. System, fuse this springtail with a mental giant brain. Ding. Start merging. Brush. Above the void, a dazzling light suddenly flashed. It was as if a bolt of lightning cut through the night and instantly fell on the tearing springtail. Next moment, the body of the tearing springtail suddenly jumped up from the rock. One head hit the ground hard. Ouch! While roaring, its body began to swell, directly breaking through 1 meter and reaching a height of 1.5 meters. The claws became sharper and the bone spurs became more ferocious. The most different thing is, its originally triangular head actually began to swell rapidly. In the blink of an eye, it turned into a monster head full of tumors and vesicles. Inside the head, a brand new brain could be vaguely seen trembling. Tip, one of your believers has mutated. Tip, its level has been improved. Tip, you have gained a brand new race, the mentally abnormal. Tip, you have gained 102 faith points. Lu Yuan directly clicked on the detailed information of this new race. Chapter 11. Name, mentally abnormal. Category, Zerg. Stage, Level 2. Ability, Enhanced Tear, Charge Main, Claw Slash, Fire Resistance, Bacterial Infection, Underwater Breathing, Swimming Proficiency, Armored Thrust Main, Brood Pulse Main, Psychic Wave Main, Spiritual Scream Main. Life 9, Total Blood Volume of 2 adults. Strength 11, Tearing humans apart is easy. Agility 8, Speed is faster than 90% of adults. Intelligence 25, Horrible increase, more terrifying than Shaman. Evaluation, focusing on spiritual development makes oneself more vulnerable. The best way is to hide. Seeing the interface information of the new race, Lu Yuan only wanted to say 3 words, it was too strong. Generally speaking, for units that have reached level 2, their basic parameters will be about twice as strong as those at level 1, regardless of weapons and equipment. Where there is expertise, the price will be higher. But now, not only the mental aberration's life force and agility have nearly doubled, but the intelligence option has actually increased to 25 points. Equivalent to 5 times the mental strength of an adult human being. This is simply ridiculously strong. And, in addition to this, 3 abilities were born, all of which are active abilities. Brother's Nest Pulse. The mentally deformed person grows a long tentacle from its tail, goes deep into the brood's nest, and sends out a mental pulse to the brood's nest. Note, mental pulse has the effect of accelerating the evolution of the brood, and the specific effect is proportional to the duration. Psychic waves release psychic waves through powerful mental power to achieve the purpose of communicating with the Zerg. It is a powerful tool for commanding battles on the battlefield. Psychic scream, crazy shouting on the spiritual level can make the opponent lose consciousness instantly. Those who are mentally weak and confused can be directly annihilated by the spirit. These 3 abilities are also very powerful. The excitement in Lu Yuan's eyes could not be concealed. The brood pulse can accelerate the evolution of the Zerg brood. Once evolved, the brood will produce many powerful functions, which is the foundation of the Zerg. The ability of psychic waves, simply put, is spiritual communication. Especially on the battlefield, when faced with complex and changeable enemy configurations, mentally aberrant people use their powerful intelligence to understand the opponent's direction and respond quickly. This feature will be very useful even in the distant future. The final mental scream is a means of mental attack. With an intelligence attribute of up to 25 points, this attack can become an extremely terrifying weapon. Generally speaking, the position of the mentally aberrant is battlefield command and auxiliary direction. It is not a powerful unit that charges head-on. Nodding, Lu Yuan looked away from the race interface. Looked towards the mentally aberrant person below. Ouch! As if feeling Lu Yuan's gaze, the mentally aberrant person looked up to the sky and roared. Immediately, the whole body suddenly fell to the ground. Powerful mental fluctuations were transmitted instantly. Great God of natural disasters, thank you for giving me a new life. Please give me a name. Give me a name. Lu Yuan raised his eyebrows slightly. He didn't expect that at the same time as his intelligence evolved, the mentally aberrant would actually need his own name. That's fine. Lu Yuan smiled slightly, and the name of a classic character from a game in his previous life appeared in his mind. The positioning of the 2 seems to be similar. Then, his divine thoughts sounded in the mind of the mentally disturbed person. From now on, your name is Abathur. Abathur in the Blue Star game is far more powerful than the current mental aberrations. The reason why Lu Yuan gave it this name is also an expectation for it. Hopefully, one day, it can grow into a heroic unit as powerful as Abathur. The moment Lu Yuan's oracle fell, the interface prompt sounded again. Tip, you give a name to the believer race. Tip, the mentally deformed believer race has been renamed the mentally deformed Abathur. Tip, you have gained 308 faith points. Tip, the faith of the believer race has deepened. Thank you, my lord, for giving me your name. Abathur will always be loyal to you. The mentally aberrant person who received the name raised his head and roared. A moment of time, the tearing springtails all over the mountains and plains couldn't help but crawl to the ground. Hint, your believer race witnessed a miracle. Tip, you have gained 50,000 faith points. Lu Yuan looked at the domain interface and found that the faith value had once again become 610,000. He resisted the urge to continue drawing. After all, the amount of faith required to ignite the divine fire is too huge. If you want to take the college entrance examination in high school, igniting the divine fire is a must and the only criterion. This standard alone has stumped countless high school students. To ignite the divine fire, the minimum faith value is 1 million. No one would be stupid enough to try to light a divine fire with 1 million faith points. Accumulation. Only continuous accumulation can provide greater guarantee for igniting the divine fire. After issuing an oracle to the mentally aberrant to go to the nest to release pulses, Lu Yuan left his divine space. Next, he needs to recharge his batteries and wait for the next day's final exam. One night passed in the blink of an eye. It's 9 o'clock the next morning. In the examination center of Cayenne City No. 1 High School, all the 1,000 freshmen in the school gathered in the stands of the examination center. Below, there are hundreds of God's domain login cabins densely arranged. At this moment, all the freshmen couldn't help but gear up. Suddenly, at the front of the first floor, a row of figures wearing faculty uniforms emerged. For a moment, all the freshmen suddenly became quiet. Because the probing exam is about to begin. Dear classmates, today, Principal Hong Qinghe began to deliver a speech and announce the rules of the preliminary examination. To put it simply, thousands of freshmen were randomly divided into 10 groups. 100 people per group. The first 100 people appeared in every corner of the random God's domain at the same time. 1 point is awarded for each opponent eliminated, and the team ranked first in the group standings advances directly. The 10 students who ranked first in the group were randomly combined to fight alone. The winner advances directly to the next round, while the loser is eliminated. The rules sound simple, but in reality there is room for maneuver. For example, if a freshman with strong individual strength cannot eliminate more students, he will definitely not be able to advance. If it is targeted by multiple students at the same time, it will most likely fail. The reason for this arrangement is, on the one hand, to see the strength of the students as believers. On the other hand, it depends on the tactical adaptability of the students themselves. After all, in just a few days, most freshmen cannot make much preparation. Of course, except for those who have a family background or have a strong background. Lu Yuan was placed in the third group, and it would be his turn after the first 2 groups completed their competition. The first group of students is ready to enter the cabin. As the invigilator's voice sounded, the first group of students in the stands all stood up and walked towards the login cabin below. At this time, Lu Yuan's eyes suddenly narrowed, and he saw a familiar figure. Luo Ziming. He was actually placed in the first group. As it happens, Luo Ziming seemed to feel Lu Yuan's gaze. He suddenly stopped and showed a solemn smile towards Lu Yuan. He raised his arm and swept his hand across his neck like a knife. Lu Yuan saw what the other party meant. It's talking to him. Wait to die, Lu Yuan. In this regard, Lu Yuan's expression did not fluctuate at all. It is not yet certain who can kill whom. Soon, all the students in the first group entered the login cabin. Dozens of large screens in the examination center lighted up at the same time. The examination location is a virtual battlefield in the world of gods. The battle here is the spiritual link established between gods and believers, and there will be no real death. In order to meet the needs of different new believer environments, the examination scene is a multi-terrain composite scene. As the light flashed, the exam began. Lu Yuan glanced at the big screen. Most of the freshmen in the first group had nothing novel about them. In 5 days, the original 200 basic believers could only grow by about 100 at most. Occasionally there are many, and a lot of resources have been invested. He just glanced at it a few times and didn't pay much attention to it. His eyes scanned the screen everywhere. He is searching. Look for Luo Ziming. Soon, he found it. This guy chose the Desert Snake Man. Lu Yuan raised his eyebrows. Luo Ziming's priesthood was also related to heat, so most of the races he chose were drought-tolerant races. However, what surprised Lu Yuan was, all of Luo Ziming's snake people have mutated. 500 mutated snake men. Where did he get the resources? Questions appeared in Lu Yuan's mind, and he couldn't help but observe Luo Ziming's followers carefully. Soon, he discovered that Luo Ziming's mutated snake man was very powerful and crushed a classmate of a dwarf believer right after he was born. Almost everywhere they went, they were victorious. In less than half a minute, they were already far ahead in the standings. The time flow rate in the main world is different from that in the divine world. Half a minute is equivalent to several hours. Strange, when did the snake man become so strong? Looking at Luo Ziming's battle scene, Lu Yuan couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. Certainly, this kind of question only flashed through my mind. After all, in the face of absolute numbers, no matter how strong these snake people are, they are useless. In the end, Luo Ziming took the lead with 54 points and won the first place in the group. The second group then came on stage. Most of the believer races are not much different, and the situation is not much different from the first group. At this time, several outstanding students began to emerge, and the competition in the standings became fierce. Unfortunately, there is only one champion. After a lot of fighting, it finally came to an end. The third group is ready to play. Lu Yuan stood up from his seat when he heard the teacher's voice. This was his first battle at number 1 middle school after traveling through time. Come to think of it, I still have a little expectation. Entering the login cabin, Lu Yuan directly contacted and entered the divine world with a thought. Tip: the basic test will start in 1 minute. Tip: players are asked to choose and deploy believers to fight. Tip: the countdown begins. Lu Yuan's spiritual thoughts swept across the entire divine space. Next moment, I saw a thought in his mind, and the majestic divine thoughts enveloped 20,000 tearing springtails. Aha! 20,000 tearing springtails instantly fell into a dormant state. Their consciousness was pulled into the virtual divine space. Need to deploy. Lu Yuan raised the corner of his mouth slightly as he looked at the tearing springtails with fierce eyes. Forget it, it's over. Tip: countdown is over. Tip: transmission starts. In a flash of light, Lu Yuan and his race of believers disappeared instantly. Buzz. The light in front of his eyes shined when Lu Yuan opened his eyes again. Has been randomly teleported to a desolate hilly area. On the low hillside, 20,000 tear springtails were crawling on the ground, ready to attack like cheetahs. The divine realm interface in front of Lu Yuan flashed with light, and on the back of the hillside, less than 5 kilometers away, a ray of light was beating. As long as they are close to a certain range, they can sense each other. This is to prevent players from lurking in an area for a long time without being discovered and delaying the game. Lu Yuan's figure subconsciously rose up, looking across the hill. Just one glance, then he saw a large group of pig-headed men running from a distance. As their god, the other party obviously also saw Lu Yuan's figure. After Lu Mingliang saw Lu Yuan's information about the gods. First he was stunned. Immediately afterwards, he couldn't help laughing wildly. Ha ha ha, it's really God who helped me. I was able to gain a point as soon as I came up. If it were someone else, he might not know it, but he was very familiar with Lu Yuan's identity. On the first day of school, he actually chose Desert Worm as a disciple. Such jokes have already spread throughout the school. No matter how many desert worms there are, what's the use without attack power? In Lu Mingliang's view, it was just points delivered to his door. Believers, rush for me! Lu Mingliang shouted loudly. Below, the 200 heavily armed pig-headed leaders howled excitedly. People, for the great god of fertility, for the light of fertility to shine on the world. For the glory of the ancestor god, charge forward. Tear all enemies into pieces. Quote, ouch. 200 pig-headed men wearing bone armor and wielding bone maces roared loudly. He rushed up the hillside menacingly. Kill, 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 kill. However, when Lu Mingliang led them over the hillside, all the roaring stopped suddenly. All over the mountains and plains, 20,000 crawling teartails all looked towards them. Lu Mingliang, who was originally confident and sure of victory, suddenly shrank. Subsequently, an incredible scream sounded from his mouth. Is this a desert worm? Hee hee. Lu Yuan chuckled lightly. The next moment, the oracle sounded in his mouth. Kill, ouch, ouch, Jia. A sharp scream came, and 20,000 tearing springtails turned into a terrifying torrent of Zerg. Just for a moment, just drown all the pig-headed men. Oh, help, help. Great god of fertility, save your followers. The shrill screams and wails only lasted for less than a few seconds and then disappeared instantly. At the same time, Lu Mingliang, who looked dull, received a prompt from the god's domain interface. Tip, your believer race has been attacked. Tip, your believer race has all been destroyed. Hint, you were eliminated. The moment the last one appeared, Lu Mingliang was teleported directly before he could react. The other side. Tip, your believer race has achieved a decisive victory. Tip, you have earned 1 point. Looking at the pig-headed people in front of them with no bones left. Before Lu Yuan could say anything, a prompt sounded again. Ding. Congratulations to the host for receiving an additional reward, Wild Boar Tusk. Ding. Congratulations to the host for receiving an additional reward, 999 faith points. Lu Yuan's pupils shrank. He didn't expect that even this kind of virtual divine battle could cause the system to react. Even additional rewards were given. This made him extremely happy. He took a look and found that the material of the boar's tusks was relatively average, and it could slightly increase the attack of tearing springtails. That's certainly not his concern. Because, now that you can get boar tusks, you can get other things from other opponents. With the accumulation of quantity, maybe the best things can be born. Lu Yuan's eyes sparkled with brilliance. He pointed towards the distant land. Believers, run forward. Ouch! For the glory of the god of disaster. Amidst the roaring in the sky, on the entire land, 20,000 dark brown springtails gathered into a swarm, leaving no trace of armor anywhere they passed. Because Lu Yuan dealt with Lu Mingliang too quickly just now. So that, there was no picture of him on the big screen. But when the insect tide rolls in, this spectacular scene finally attracted everyone's attention. Look, what is that? Are these bugs? Why are they so vicious? Oh my god, isn't this too much? Who is Shen Zhuan? How did he do it? Ah, I remembered, isn't he that Lu Yuan? The guy who chose Desert Worm as a follower. What? This is impossible. When did the Desert Worm mutate so badly? Gradually, not only were the freshmen talking about it, but the entire faculty and staff were looking surprised. Why is this Lu Yuan so powerful? Can he mutate the Desert Worm to such an extent? One teacher couldn't help being surprised and spoke. Teacher Ning, is this from your class? Ning Yun sat aside and saw Lu Yuan's devastated state in the picture, and a smile appeared on the corner of her mouth. Lu Yuan is indeed a rare genius. I just discovered it. She nodded. It's amazing, it seems like I found a treasure this time. I'm afraid it can crush everything just by sheer numbers. In my opinion, the new champion this time must be him. All the teachers praised him one after another. But at this moment, Teacher Zhao, who next to him, changed his tone. Haha, that's not necessarily the case. Quantity may not determine everything. The strength of a god ultimately depends on the rank of the believer's race. Right, Teacher Ning. Quote, Ning Yun turned her head and glanced, and found that the look on Zhao Hu's face seemed a little different. She didn't speak, but continued to pay attention to the game on the starting field. Not far away, the eyes of Principal Hong Qinghe, who had been silent until now, suddenly flashed with light. Lu Yuan, you should be more than just prepared for this, right? He whispered to himself secretly. In the virtual divine realm, Lu Yuan naturally didn't know what many classmates and teachers were talking about outside. He has now eliminated nearly 30 classmates one after another. Everything in its path was annihilated. And the prompt sounds in the system space are simply endless. Ding. Congratulations to the host for receiving an additional reward, Kobold Blood. Ding. Congratulations to the host for receiving additional rewards, Goblin Rations. Ding. Congratulations to the host for receiving an additional reward, Corrosive Poison Sac. Ding. Congratulations to the host for receiving an additional reward, Exploding Eye. Lu Yuan no longer has time to look at the many awards he has received. He is constantly searching for the hidden gods. He is now far ahead in the standings. But, therefore, his name has been completely spread throughout the entire virtual god realm. Outside a wide lake, 200 heavily armed jackals came in force. In the lake, figures with bumps all over their bodies, smooth skin, and frogman-like heads popped up. Quack! They suddenly puffed up their cheeks, and a stream of highly toxic venom was about to spit out from the poison glands on both sides. At this moment, a rapid voice sounded in midair. Don't do it, don't do it. I'm here for the alliance. Above the jackal, a figure of the god Zhuan appeared. Zhou, no one can resist those bugs now. We must unite, otherwise we can only be defeated by him one by one. Hearing this, in the lake, a thin figure slowly emerged. How to do it? I plan to contact all the surviving freshmen to take action together. Zhang Kai, the god of jackals, said in a deep voice. I know that your family is rich, and there are more than 500 Toad believers. As long as you join us, the possibility of our victory will greatly increase. As long as we eliminate him, we will compete on our own, so that everyone has a chance. Zhou Zhengji's eyes flashed when he heard this. Moment. He nodded and said, okay, I agree. Very good. A look of surprise appeared on Zhang Kai's face. I'll ask them all to come over now, so that we can maximize our advantage by using your lake as a battlefield. Good. Zhang Kai left with the jackal followers. Not long after, such a picture appeared on the big screen of the entire virtual god realm. Races of believers met each other, but did not start a war. They all converged towards the lake where Zhou Zheng's was. The number is increasing. Haha, Zhang Kai is indeed a child of the war family, and he actually figured out a way to unite everyone. The head teacher of Class 6 couldn't help but feel proud on his face. This is his student. Zhou Zheng's from Class 9 has also joined. His toads have actually multiplied to 1,000, and they have also mutated the ability to attack remotely. This battle looks like a good one. Quote, Ning Yun couldn't help but feel worried in her eyes after hearing this. Judging from the current screen, more than 50 students are already gathering in the direction of the lake. Once the war actually breaks out, it's hard to say whether Lu Yuan's Zerg army can win. Ning Yun didn't want Lu Yuan to be eliminated by a group fight before even entering the finals. As if he saw Ning Yun's nervousness, the principal next to him suddenly said, Don't worry, I'm very optimistic about this kid Lu Yuan. Even if we fight 1 against 50, we may not have no chance of winning. In the virtual divine realm, Lu Yuan also felt something was wrong after not finding his opponent for half an hour. Could it be that you want to target me together? Lu Yuan's eyes flashed, and fighting intent suddenly rose in his eyes. That's fine. If we get together, we'll save ourselves the trouble. After 1 hour, Lu Yuan's army finally approached the Alliance's lake. After climbing over a mountain, Lu Yuan finally saw the opponent's assembled army. Attention, all races wearing leather armor and iron armor equipment come forward. As long as you can resist the Zerg attack in the front row, you can buy time for the back row. The long-range soldiers of the human race and demi-human race stay behind and serve as the second point of firepower. The underwater races all go into the water. If they break through the defense line, the water will be your main battlefield. Kill the opponent as much as possible. Quote, looking at the Alliance troops gradually forming their formation. A smile appeared on Zhang Kai's face. He came to Zhou Zhengji's side. He smiled and said, Brother Zhou, the formation has been arranged. Your toad men can do their best in the water. It is estimated that the battle will be over before they rush over. Although Zhou Zheng's is thin and small, the arrogant look in his eyes is not weak at all. So what if we break through? The Zerg's ability to fight in water is extremely poor. I can deal with it myself when the time comes. Ha ha ha. Zhang Kai laughed and didn't care about Zhou Zhengji's harsh tone. That's it. I think the number 1 in the standings this time is none other than Brother Zhou. As soon as he finished speaking, suddenly, I heard Shen Zhuan's exclamation from the distance. Come, it's Lu Yuan. On the plain beyond the lake, Lu Yuan's army of 20,000 ripworms approached. And on the other side, the army of nearly 50 demigod believers also exceeded 10,000. The confrontation between the two parties finally seems to be no longer so disparate. At this time, Zhang Kai emerged from midair. Lu Yuan, you have also seen our lineup. Why don't you quit on your own initiative to avoid hurting the harmony? Zhang Kai's smiling voice just sounded. I saw Lu Yuan's palm slightly swiping downwards in midair. Charge! Ouch! Countless roars and roars sounded. 20,000 tearing springtails instantly activated their ability, Charge. Buzz. For a moment, the tearing springtail, which was already ready to attack, suddenly sprang out. It rushed towards the local camp at a terrifying speed that was difficult to distinguish with the naked eye. There is no fear or timidity in their minds. Only killing. Zhang Kai also didn't expect that Lu Yuan would start fighting without even saying hello. The words that originally came to my mouth were swallowed hard. Instead, there were anxious shouts. Hurry up, defend, defend, the front row's human shields must hold up to me. Prepare for long-range attacks. Brother Joe's toad people are ready. Buzz. All believer races take action at this moment. In the lake, 1,000 toad people surfaced. On both sides of them, poison glands filled with highly toxic substances began to swell with inhalation. The poison inside begins to brew. Just open your mouth. It can be sprayed tens of meters away. The front row must support me, otherwise the toad man will not be able to aim. Zhang Kai roared crazily at the top of his lungs. The first wave of impact is the most critical. As long as you can withstand the opponent's impact, wait until the toad man's poison falls. That can turn the situation around. Wild boar, kobold, wolf head, ant head, goblin. All races emit unique roars and roars. Watching the mighty and ferocious army of tearing springtails roaring towards them. Outside the virtual divine realm, all the students, including the teacher, were staring at the big screen at this moment. Them, counting silently in your mind unconsciously. 3, 2, 1, boom. The armies of both sides collided instantly. Click, click, click. Poof. Various complex and mysterious sounds appeared. Blood and smoke intertwined. Finally, the moment I saw the picture clearly, the entire examination center actually burst into cheers. It's blocked. It's really blocked. Ha ha ha. Let me tell you, after the numerical advantage disappears, these reptiles are not so scary. The Alliance must win. The whole exam center is in this situation. It's really because the Zerg army controlled by Lu Yuan was too ferocious. Wherever it passes, no race can leave any bones behind. Invisibly, he has been designated by everyone as the Big Devil. And seeing that the Alliance finally withstood the attack of the Big Devil, how could they not be happy? Haha, my strategy was successful. Zhang Kai waved his hand excitedly. Prepare for long-range attack. Prepare Toadman, attack. Boo-hoo. Arrows, javelins, and spears all broke through the air. Certainly, more importantly, there is the powerful venom spit of the Toad Man. Swish. A stream of yellow-green venom rose into the sky like an arrow. It only takes a few seconds to completely cut through the void and land in the enemy's camp. Just these few seconds, the Alliance will establish an advantage. But, faced with such a situation, there was no trace of panic on Lu Yuan's face in the distance. Even, the corners of his mouth actually turned up slightly, revealing a contemptuous smile. The front row tears apart springtails, and the armor stabs violently. The oracle's thoughts enveloped the entire audience. Next moment, the believers of all races who were still in a stalemate with the front row suddenly saw it. Countless spikes as sharp as blades erupted from the back of the tearing springtail. At such a close distance, there is no way to dodge. Puff puff. The sound of spikes penetrating armor sounded. Just for a moment, countless blood mist erupted from those races. Even those races wearing iron armor are of no use. Because, in just 5 days, few people were willing to spend a huge amount of money to assemble heavy armor for the believer race. And those lightweight iron armors can't stop the impact of bone spurs at all. Even if there is heavy armor, it is not enough to affect the overall situation. So, in just an instant, those front row human shields penetrated by the tearing springtails were raised high. The tearing springtails behind took advantage of this gap and continued to rush forward. Armor blast. Charge forward. Armor blast. Charge forward. Just a few seconds, the human shield in the front row was completely torn apart. Ouch! The sharp screams, accompanied by blood and screams, instantly flooded the entire battlefield. At this time, even the spears and arrows fell in midair. Under the resistance of the spiked armor, no real damage was caused. As for the venom higher up, one could only watch helplessly as countless tearing springtails slipped through their gaps. How can it be? A cry of disbelief sounded from Zhang Kai's mouth. He never expected that Lu Yuan's tearing springtail would have such a terrifying trump card. The tearing springtails that rush into the crowd don't need to use much attack at all. Its terrifying spikes alone are enough to cause damage. The massacre was completely one-sided. All the spectators who were watching opened their mouths in shock at this moment. Did not expect The alliance that 1 second thought was guaranteed to win suddenly collapsed the next second. Call. Ning Yun took a long breath and relaxed her whole body. And beside, seeing this scene, Hong Qinghe had a rich smile on his face. Haha, this guy really didn't disappoint me. Hong Qinghe's eyes were filled with admiration. Now, it's the final underwater battle, there's some trouble. Under the carnage of the tearing springtails, the battle on land soon came to an end. In the distance, the toad man who originally planned to spit out venom could no longer be seen. Including all races that can dive, they have dispersed at this moment. Among the huge lakes, with their underwater maneuverability, they also have a chance to save the day. However, Lu Yuan didn't even look at them from beginning to end. Until all the ground troops were completely torn apart. He just waved his hand. All the tear springtails rushed into the water one after another. Puff thump thump. Look at the scene of all the springtails tearing apart like water. Many people shook their heads slightly. This Lu Yuan is a little carried away. He shouldn't have entered the water so quickly. That's right, his disciples' physical strength is already low. Even if they go into the water, they have to recover their physical strength before going down. Well, this gives the alliance more opportunities to counterattack. Hong Qinghe couldn't help but frown slightly when he heard the discussion. He thought Lu Yuan was a calm student. I didn't expect him to be so eager. Being greedy for merit and rushing forward is not the potential of an outstanding student. He was thinking about talking to Lu Yuan after it was over. But when he saw that all the springtails that had entered the water actually opened their organs like fish gills and their flesh like fins, the whole person suddenly stood up from his seat. Breathing underwater, his Zerg are actually amphibious. Swish! The tearing springtail that entered the water instantly burst into swimming faster than the frogman with its fishman gills and swimming fins. Almost in the blink of an eye, he caught up with the lone underwater race not far away. How is it possible? This is impossible. Seeing this scene, Zhou Zhengji's originally arrogant expression completely changed. He never expected that Lu Yuan's bugs could swim faster than fish in the water. The idea of fighting guerrilla warfare was completely dead before it was implemented. A killing faster than on land took place. This moment, the deep lake has instead become the home ground of the Zerg. The defenses of the underwater murlocs and toads themselves are not even as good as those of the kobolds. The outcome can naturally be imagined. After a few minutes, an army of 20,000 Ripper Zerglings completely annihilated all races. Continuous prompts pop up on the God's Domain interface. Tip, your believer race achieved an overwhelming victory. Tip, your points +1. Tip, your points +1. Ding. Congratulations to the host for receiving an additional reward, 10,000 faith points. Ding. Congratulations to the host for receiving an additional reward, secret medicine for breeding. Ding. Congratulations to the host for receiving an additional reward, biological telescope. Comma. Hearing a series of system prompts, Lu Yuan burst into laughter. Now his system space is filled with various rewards. He couldn't wait to have another fight with 1 against 50. Certainly, Lu Yuan knows this is unrealistic. After the God's Domain interface announced that he advanced to the next round as the first in the group, the hatch opened and he returned to his seat again. As soon as he sat down, teacher Ning Yun appeared next to him. Well done. Ning Yun smiled and praised. Thank you, teacher, for the compliment. Lu Yuan responded with a smile. Teacher, you came here just to compliment me, right? Of course not. Ning Yun smiled slightly and lowered her voice. The principal asked me to give you a message. Use all your strength. If you can impress him, he will consider letting you participate in this year's Cayenne City Middle School Exchange Competition. Middle School Exchange Competition. Lu Yuan's eyes lit up after hearing this. He was very familiar with this event. It is the biggest high school competition in the entire Cayenne City. Not only that, every student who shines on it has a high probability of achieving higher achievements in the future. Thinking of this, Lu Yuan couldn't help but nodded. Don't worry, teacher, I will never let you down. That's good. Ning Yun nodded and was about to turn around and leave. Lu Yuan seemed to have thought of something and suddenly said, Teacher, can I take a leave? What? Ning Yun was confused. My followers may be mutating, so I want to go to the dormitory. Lu Yuan said, Are you going to mutate again? Ning Yun was a little surprised that it had only been so long before she mutated again. You don't need to go back. There is a spare login cabin next to the examination center. I will take you there. The requirement for one's own students to improve their strength. Naturally, Ning Yun would not stop her in any way. After saying that, she pulled Lu Yuan and walked out of the stands. Right next to the exam center, a row of independent rooms is dedicated to class quizzes. It's just that today, because of the preliminary exam, most of them are empty. Go in, feel free to tell me if you need anything. Thank you, teacher. Lu Yuan was thanked and entered the login cabin. After linking to the God's domain interface, he entered his own divine space again. Before he could check his interface information, then I heard the system prompt sound in my mind. Ding. Detect that the host's additional rewards have reached the upper limit, and the synthesis function is enabled. Ding. Auxiliary synthesis assistant has been launched. Synthetic function. Lu Yuan subconsciously looked towards the system space. The densely packed additional rewards are actually arranged neatly into categories. In front of him, a light curtain clearly stated the detailed introduction of the synthesis function. To put it simply, it is to combine some unrelated items through the system to turn them into a brand new item. The auxiliary synthesis assistant can automatically help Lu Yuan plan the synthesis route, eliminating the possibility of his own attempts and failures. Just don't be too considerate. System, plan a synthesis route for me first. Lu Yuan, who understood the function, gave the order directly. Ding. Synthetic items are being selected. I saw. Suddenly 3 items flew out of the system space and hovered in front of Lu Yuan. These 3. Lu Yuan glanced at it, and information suddenly appeared on it. Toad venom glands. The highly toxic glands from the toad's cheeks can expand and compress to release high concentration venom. Corrosive poison sac. The corrosive poison sac from the body of the ant-headed man contains strong corrosive acid. Exploding eyes. The eyes on the top of the head of the multi-eyed fish man can actively explode at any time, injuring the opponent. Ding. The synthesis route planning is completed. Do you want to synthesize it? Now that the system has been planned, Lu Yuan feels that there is no reason for him to make further changes. Then, he nodded directly. Synthesis. The words have fallen. I saw 3 items bursting out with mysterious light. Then they attract each other and finally merge. The light became brighter and brighter. I can't see the changes clearly at all. This change only lasted for a short moment and then disappeared suddenly. A huge, yellow-green, venom-filled sac appeared in front of Lu Yuan. Ding. Congratulations to the host for getting self-exploding poison sac. Self-exploding poison sac. The tough and ugly poison sac is filled with highly toxic corrosive venom. Once it explodes, it can cause heavy damage to both the opponent and yourself. Is this a bomb? After reading the above introduction, Lu Yuan couldn't help but take a breath of air. If all the huge poison sacs with a diameter of nearly 1 meter exploded, it is hard to imagine how much damage it would cause to the surrounding area. Does this ask me to cultivate a suicide squad? Lu Yuan's eyes lit up. He has nearly 200,000 Zerg believers. Even if he takes out a batch of them to self-destruct, he won't feel any pain at all. On the contrary, the other party may not be able to withstand such consumption. Just do it. Lu Yuan descended directly into the entire divine space. System, install self-exploding poison sacs on all the springtails for me. Ding. Installation begins. In midair, all the Zerg looked up. The familiar mode of dust reappeared. People, the great god of natural disasters has sent a miracle. The mentally deformed Abathur let out a high-pitched roar. Get ready for the miracles of our Lord. Ouch. A shrill roar resounded from the mouth of the entire tearing springtail. This time, what surprised Lu Yuan was their appearance actually hasn't changed much. If I have to say it, it just looks like my belly is getting bigger. This is completely inconsistent with what he saw in the system space. Tip, your believer race is undergoing mutation. Tip, you have gained 120,000 faith points. Tip, believer's faith deepens. A prompt appears, indicating that the mutation has been completed. Lu Yuan couldn't wait to open the race panel of the Zerglings. Name, Tier, Springtail. Category, Zerg. Stage, Level 1. Ability, Swallowing and Gathering, Enhanced Tearing, Charged Main Claw Slashing, fire resistance, bacterial infection, underwater breathing, swimming proficiency, armored thrust main, poisonous explosion main. Life 7, the pinnacle of adulthood. Strength 8, adults are no match either. Agility 8, speed is faster than 90% of adults. Intelligence 4, equivalent to a teenager. Evaluation, the powerful body adds new abilities, but they must be used with caution. Lu Yuan looked at it for a long time and found that there was only one more active ability. Poison explosion, drastic change. The poison sac contained in the abdomen expands rapidly in a short period of time, and the body of the torn springtail will begin to degenerate, with most of it being taken up by the poison sac. After the drastic change, the insect body has higher agility and can quickly roll towards enemies at short distances. Once touched, the poison sac will explode immediately. Note: it takes a certain amount of time to cast this ability. During this period, you cannot move. Once the cast is completed, it is irreversible. No wonder. After understanding the ability, Lu Yuan finally understood why the tearing springtail seemed to have no change. Because once there is a drastic change, it will directly transform into a poisonous baneling insect, and there is no other choice but to self-destruct. This is an irreversible process. It cannot be used easily until the end. However, this also gives Lu Yuan a hidden trump card. Just imagine once you encounter some units with high defense and blood thickness. Part of the tearing springtails turned into poisonous banelings and launched a suicide attack. It directly caused heavy losses to the other party's believers. After finishing all this, Lu Yuan took another look at the system space and found that there was no new synthesis route prompt. He was ready to leave. After all, it's exam time. If he doesn't go back for a long time, it will be troublesome if his exam is delayed. As soon as Lu Yuan went out, he couldn't help but be stunned for a moment. Unexpectedly, teacher Ning Yun was guarding his door. Seeing Lu Yuan appear, Ning Yun asked hurriedly, "How's it going? Was the mutation successful?" "Well, fortunately, I lived up to my fate." Lu Yuan nodded. "Great, now you have more confidence." Ning Yun smiled sincerely. Regarding Ning Yun's care, Lu Yuan secretly remembered it in his heart. If there is an opportunity in the future, he must repay her well. When the two returned to the examination center, I found that the 10th group was nearing the end. Fortunately, I came back in time. If I were late, I might have missed it. Okay, the first place winners of the 10 groups have been selected. A few minutes later, the invigilator announced directly. Now we will draw lots randomly. Candidates, please pay attention to your matching number and take your seat according to the number. As soon as he finished speaking, Lu Yuan saw the heads of 10 people appear on the big screen. The avatar flashed back and forth, then suddenly stopped. Lu Yuan's number clearly reads the number 5. On the other side, the one with the same number 5 matched him directly. The opponent's name is Zhen Hard. Zhen Han. Lu Yuan raised his eyebrows, feeling like he had some impression. He seems to be the first in the second group. Ask students to take their seats. The invigilator's voice sounded. Immediately, the 10 number 1 players all walked towards their login cabins. Around, seeing the top 10 appearing, all the students couldn't help but cast envious glances. Because these 10 people are the elite of the entire school. Down with the big devil. Suddenly, I don't know which student among the crowd shouted first. Just for a moment, it received responses from countless students. Down with the big devil. Down with the big devil. Listening to the roar of the mountain and the tsunami, Lu Yuan looked back with some confusion. What are these people doing? Demon King, who is the big devil? Who knows? The opponent next to him, Zhen Hao, suddenly spoke. Brother, stop looking, they are talking about you. Lu Yuan became a little confused. When did I become the devil? Zhen Zhang is not tall, but she looks extremely fat. She is estimated to weigh 200 pounds for her height of 1.7 meters. He spread his hands speechlessly. Who makes your Zerg so ugly and cruel? What else is it if it's not a demon king? He said with a smile. Brother, although you are more numerous, it is a pity that you met me. I am your nemesis. Oh, is it so? Lu Yuan was stunned for a moment, then smiled. Then I'd like to see it. The two entered the login cabin and directly entered the divine space. Tip: the exam map is being extracted. Tip: the exam scene is plain. Tip: the exam is about to start. Countdown is 1 minute. Tip. The countdown begins. Lu Yuan did not change much this time and still sent out his 20,000 tearing springtails. When the time comes, believers and gods enter the virtual divine realm at the same time. As far as the eye can see, there is a large flat plain. You can see it at once. Thousands of meters away, Zhenjian's race of believers. Lu Yuan took a rough look and found that there were more than 500 believers in total. Sudden, his eyes narrowed. These believers had pointed heads and were nearly 1.5 meters tall. The whole body is actually covered with diamond-shaped scales. These scales are extremely thick and look like heavy armor. This is the digging armor-piercing clan. Lu Yuan spoke in confusion. The diggers, a subspecies of humans derived from pangolin genes, are naturally good at digging holes. A suit of hard-scale armor is no worse than heavy armor. At this moment, these armor-piercing clansmen did not have any weapons in their hands. On the contrary, their sharp claws were surprisingly long. It looks extremely sharp. Haha, how about it, brother, am I okay as a believer? In midair, Zhen Gang had a smile on his face. Then he waved his hand. Attack! Ouch! For the god of the earth, charge! All the digging armor-piercing clan believers roared wildly and took the initiative to charge towards Lu Yuan. 500 charges against 20,000, Lu Yuan felt that Zhen Gang's brain was broken. Same, Lu Yuan's side also descended from the divine realm, and 20,000 tearing springtails also charged towards the digging armor-piercing clan. The distance of several thousand meters was quickly shortened under the full sprint. However, just when the two parties were about to get close, sudden, the armor-piercing digger who was originally running jumped suddenly and plunged headlong towards the ground. Relax, Earth. In midair, Zhen Zhang, the god of the earth, displayed his divine power at this moment. Just hearing a soft sound, all the armor-piercing men sank into the earth and disappeared. The army of tearing springtails that lost their target suddenly stopped. Suddenly, Lu Yuan's expression changed as he saw the ground at the center of the tearing springtail suddenly collapse. 500 armor-piercing diggers rushed out from the ground. The sharp claws in his hands clawed hard at the body of the springtail. Poof, poof, a muffled sound emerged, and the abdomens of 500 springtails were torn open at once. Sharp claws more than half a meter long tore apart their bodies. Casualties appeared for the first time among Lu Yuan's followers. The tearing springtails nearby reacted and rushed towards the 500 armor-piercing diggers involuntarily. The sharp claws like blades slashed at the opponent's body. Armored burst also broke out at the same time. However, surprisingly, their attacks landed on the scales of the digging armor-piercing tribe, which were comparable to heavy armor. All that was left was a trail of sparks. Other than that, it's useless. Kill, seeing that his defenses were not broken by the tearing springtails. The leader of the digging armor-piercing tribe shouted loudly, and 500 pairs of sharp claws swept through all the tearing springtails around him. Seeing more springtails rushing towards them, they jumped again, plunged into the ground and disappeared. 2 consecutive impacts have caused thousands of damage to the springtail. If this continues, even 20,000 units of tearing springtails will probably be consumed. Haha, brother, how about it? I just told you to restrain yourself. Zhen Gang smiled happily. Otherwise, let's stop here and there's no point in continuing. He couldn't help but feel ecstatic. After defeating the big devil, he will definitely gain countless fans, and maybe his girlfriend's affairs will be settled. However, Lu Yuan smiled softly after hearing this and said noncommittally, "Really, I'm afraid we won't be able to tell the winner until the end." The words fell. His oracle sounded simultaneously in the minds of 2,000 tearing springtails. Start the poisonous explosion. Looking at it now, this Lu Yuan is probably dead. The numbers of these Zerg are huge, but their weaknesses are also obvious. Yes, attacking from underground is indeed a restrained method. Listening to the discussions among the surrounding faculty and staff, a trace of worry appeared on Ning Yun's pretty face. She looked at the principal. Principal, doesn't Lu Yuan have a chance? Hearing this, Hong Qinghei's eyes moved. I don't think so. What? Ning Yun was confused and didn't know where she had the confidence in Lu Yuan at this time. Look, the principal raised his hand and pointed, and Ning Yun suddenly discovered that behind the army of springtails, the bodies of some springtails were mutating. This is, ouch. In the virtual god realm, 2,000 tearing springtails have begun their transformation. The self-exploding poison sac hidden in the body finally began to swell at this moment. The limbs degenerate and the body shortens. Visibly to the naked eye, they can be seen turning into a dark green sphere. 10 seconds later, just when all the tearing springtails completely mutated into poisonous bannerlings, the armor-piercing burrower hiding under the ground rushed out. Kill it all. Before they could finish their words, all the poisonous bannerlings in front of them shrank suddenly. The next moment, like a rapidly spinning tire, it rushed towards the nearest armor-piercing digger. What the hell is this? All the armor-piercing diggers subconsciously slashed with their claws. At this moment, the terrifying poisonous sac of the poisonous baneling insect exploded. Boom boom boom. Continuous roars sounded. Countless highly corrosive and poisonous liquids covered the body. Just hearing a sizzling sound, the scales that were originally comparable to heavy armor were corroded into a big hole in an instant. This is just the beginning. 2,000 poisonous baneling insects dealt with 500 first-level armor-piercing burrowers. It's just crushing. Everyone in the stands was completely speechless at this moment. Looking at the figure that was melted by the corrosive poison, Lu Yuan's reputation as the great demon king became even more entrenched. Tip: your believer race will perish together with the enemy. Hint: you have wiped out all enemy believers. Hint: you win. Ding. Congratulations to the host for receiving an additional reward, Digging Claws. Ding. Congratulations to the host for receiving additional rewards, 7,800 faith points. Only the Digging Claw. Lu Yuan curled his lips with regret. Originally, he valued the thick scales of the digging armor-piercing clan. If it can be obtained, the defense of the tearing springtail will definitely increase again. This is what he said himself. If word spread, I'm afraid he would be beaten to death. Just having a burrowing claw is not enough, I actually want to get more. You know, this is a battle in the virtual divine realm. Theoretically, there is no loot to be collected. That is why Lu Yuan with his system can be so magical. Exit from the login cabin. Lu Yuan saw Zhen Gang not far away grinning at him and actually holding out a thumb. Brother, I'm convinced. The destructive power of your self-exploding poisonous insect is too terrifying. It can even corrode through my heavy armor scales. Zhen Gang did not feel the slightest anger caused by the failure, but said sincerely. You're welcome. Your tribe has great potential. If I hadn't had some restraint, I might have been in a bit of trouble. If you don't hit someone with a smiling face, others will treat you well. It is impossible for Lu Yuan to give the other party a bad look. Haha, being able to fight with brothers is also a kind of fate. How about we become friends and keep in touch in the future? Zhen Jian can naturally see Lu Yuan's potential at a glance. At this time, if you can get closer to the other person, it will be of great help to your future. No problem. Lu Yuan was originally a little transparent in the whole class and really didn't have many friends. Since someone showed kindness, he didn't mind expanding his network of contacts. The two added friends and returned to their seats. Because the battle between Lu Yuan and Zhen Jian ended quickly. When they returned to their seats, there were other groups fighting. What surprised Lu Yuan was that Luo Ziming ended the battle faster than him. Are the desert snakes so strong? Lu Yuan had a doubt in his mind. Luo Ziming's opponent this time was the wolf-headed race, which is known for its ferocity. Lu Yuan was a little surprised that such combat power was managed by him so quickly. Soon, the battle for the other groups was over. This time, the 5 winning students will be randomly drawn again. One lucky person among them will be directly given a bye. There is no way, luck is also part of strength. The one who gets a bye will directly qualify for the 2nd or 3rd place. Lu Yuan's luck has never been too bad. This time, it was even more possessed by Oshen. He was directly assigned the bye tag. Lu Yuan couldn't help but flash his eyes when he saw this. Now he wanted to take a closer look at how strong Luo Ziming was. Luo Ziming also sent 500 desert snakemen to fight this time. The randomly selected map happens to be a Gobi Desert. His opponent is the leopard-headed man who also has 500 followers. The leopard-headed man's attack and speed are among the top among demihuman believers. Its training cost is also much higher than other races. And this opponent not only multiplied the tribe to the point of 500 people. Lu Yuan also saw some strange magic patterns added to these leopard-headed men. Mutated leopard-headed man, equipped with a refined iron dagger. Both background and talent are enough to prove the strength of this classmate. So at the very beginning, the opponent did not hesitate to let their leopard-headed men charge. Soon, the two sides instantly clashed with each other. The leopard-headed man took advantage of his speed and hit the body of the desert snake man first. However, what surprised Lu Yuan was that the sharp blade of the fine iron dagger only penetrated less than 3 centimeters before it suddenly stopped. Immediately, the desert snake people roared, and the spears in their hands pierced the leopard-headed man's defense effortlessly. That powerful power is not inferior even to that of a tiger-headed man. Did Luo Ziming really find the Luo family in Blood River City? Lu Yuan said to himself subconsciously. Yes, he did go to Luo's house. At this moment, Ning Yun's voice sounded from the side. I just checked. Since the last time we issued a military order, he went to the Luo family in Blood River and left the Luo family in less than a day. Ning Yun whispered. Judging from his current performance, he must have received help from the Luo family, otherwise the desert snake man would not be so strong. Ning Yun frowned and said again. I just don't know now whether he has any other trump cards that he can use in the finals. After listening to Ning Yun's words, Lu Yuan fell into deep thought. Perhaps he should think more about countermeasures. Soon, the battle ended. The two winners will automatically form a team to compete for the final spot. The loser will need to draw lots with Lu Yuan for a round-robin match. Whether it's a leopard-headed man or a human race wearing armor. Under the suppression of Lu Yuan's tearing springtail, there was no suspense at all. So, after successive wins, Lu Yuan successfully won a spot in the finals. The final battle between him and Luo Ziming is about to begin. Lu Yuan, you have half an hour to revise. In half an hour, the finals will begin. Continuous battles between gods are also a drain on the demigod's spirit. So, Lu Yuan stood up and left the examination center, preparing to enter the divine realm from the backup login cabin again. Tip: the God's Domain login has been started. Tip: you are about to go to the user-exclusive divine space. Buzz. The sky in the divine space is still dim, and the originally lush vegetation below has been gnawed into a wasteland. Seeing the huge faces gathering again in the sky, Abathur, the psychopath, immediately took the lead in shouting. Welcome to the arrival of the great god of natural disasters. Your most faithful servant offers you the most sincere prayers. Long live the god of natural disasters. Long live my lord. Listening to the shouts one after another throughout the entire divine space, Lu Yuan's huge changing face slowly sounded a majestic voice. My followers, I feel your piety. Now, send down the gift. System, install the burrowing claw for me. Wow. Miracles appeared in the sky again, and countless light points converged towards the Zerg below. This time, all the tear springtails mutated again. Their claws are sharper and better suited for digging into the soil. Tip: your believer race has mutated. Tip: you have gained 70,000 faith points. Tip: the believer's faith has deepened. Lu Yuan is already used to the prompts on the God's Domain interface. He directly opened the information interface of the tearing springtail. It was discovered that after installing the burrowing claw, they had a brand new ability. Drilling: the Zerg themselves are good at digging holes, and now they have become stronger. As long as they use their abilities, they can use their special structure to burrow into the ground faster and hide. Also hidden is its own aura. Seeing the introduction of this ability, Lu Yuan couldn't help but smile. Finally, he was not disappointed. This ability not only enhances the speed of the Zerg's escape from the ground, but more importantly, it can hide the aura. As long as you can hide your aura well, wait until the enemy passes by. Suddenly rush out and give the opponent a fatal blow. This is very scary. However, if we want to deal with that Luo Ziming, I wonder if it will be enough. Ning Yun's reminder flashed in Lu Yuan's mind. Blood River Luo family. That is an existence that can be connected with the Hell bloodline god Zhuan. And it seems that Luo Ziming didn't have much emotional fluctuation after learning about his Zerg army. Lu Yuan felt that the other party might have a trump card that he didn't know about. So, Lu Yuan suddenly looked at the God's Domain interface. He now has a faith value of over 700,000. Moment. Lu Yuan seemed to have made a decision, a determined light flashed in his eyes. The system consumes 500,000 faith points to draw a lottery. Chapter 21. Lu Yuan never fights an uncertain battle. Faced with possible accidents, he thought for a moment and finally decided to spend 500,000 faith points in a lottery at one time. After all, if the faith value is gone, it can be accumulated again. And if he loses this one, he will have one more life and death enemy. Ding! The faith value has been consumed and the lottery begins. Ding! Congratulations to the host for getting 1,000 points of faith. Ding! Congratulations to the host for obtaining the complete genetic sequence of the first level infectious insect. Ding! Congratulations to the host for getting brood nutrition. Ding! Congratulations to the host for obtaining paralysis toxin. Ding! Congratulations to the host for obtaining the complete genetic sequence of the second level infectious insect. A series of beeps appeared, and Lu Yuan quickly browsed all the prizes obtained in the lottery. The faith value reward was automatically ignored by him, and other things such as brood nutrients were thrown into the Zerg brood for the other party to absorb. And Lu Yuan discovered that under the constant stimulation of the brood pulse of the mentally disturbed person, the brood seems to be showing signs of evolving. This discovery made him even more delighted. Certainly, what pleased him the most was the two things he got in the lottery. That is, the complete genetic sequence of the infecting insect. And he won 2 levels at once. Complete gene sequence of level 1 infectious insects. Powerful Zerg evolved from Zerg larvae, possessing the ability to infect the enemy and temporarily control their actions. Complete gene sequence of level 2 infectious insect, an upgraded version of the level 1 sequence, with stronger infection ability. Note: it can only be used against level 1 infected insects. After seeing these introductions, Lu Yuan knew that he finally had a brand new unit. No longer relies on the mutation of the tearing springtail. After traveling for a few days, Lu Yuan gradually accepted the rules of this world. According to his guess, the truly powerful Shen Zhuan will definitely take the route of multiracial composite arms in the future. It is impossible for a single type of soldier to become a powerful god. And it's easier to target. Previously Lu Yuan had bannerlings that evolved from tierling springtails. It's barely an extra unit. But the poisonous bannerlings are considered a suicide squad. If you use one, you will lose one. It's different now. The addition of infected insects will definitely make Lu Yuan's army stronger. System: select 5,000 larvae for me to fuse with the genes of the infected insects. Only a few hours had passed. Lu Yuan did not mutate all the larvae, but selected a few to experiment first. Ding! Fusion begins. Above the sky, dust-like light once again shone. All the tearing springtails couldn't help but look up. However, this time, all the light fell on the 5,000 selected insect nest larvae. Immediately, the painful screams began. The insect nest larvae began to grow rapidly and become larger in the distortion. Different from the dark brown springtails, their bodies look more bloated and huge. The length of the single body has exceeded 1.5 meters and continues to expand. It looks like a giant dumpling. The dark blue skin is covered with ferocious barbs. On both sides of the head, there are 2 rows of compound eyes. Finally, when 8 huge claws propped up their bloated bodies, the mutation of the infected bugs was finally completed. Tip: your believer race is undergoing mutation. Tip: you have obtained a new mutant race, infected insects. Hint: you have 5,000 deep believers who have turned into fanatical believers. Tip: you have gained 10,000 faith points. Looking at the infected bugs that were only about 2 meters long, Lu Yuan opened their species interface without hesitation. Name: infectious insect. Category: Zerg. Stage: level 2. Ability: fungal proliferation. Main: neural parasitism. Main. Life: 11. Total blood volume of 2 adults. Strength: 10. Tearing humans apart is easy. Agility: 5. Speed is faster than 90% of human beings. Intelligence: 14, more than a human mage apprentice. Evaluation: their huge bodies and slow speed make them destined to be capable of long-range attacks. Lu Yuan was overjoyed when he saw the review. He finally had a long-range attack unit. Subconsciously check the 2 active abilities. Fungal growth throws a ball of fungus-filled liquid to the target area, and the infected person will be unable to move for a few seconds. Spiritual parasitism shoots 10-meter-long tentacles from the top of the head to inject mental spores into the opponent. The spores hatch quickly in the target's head and can control the target in a short time. Control time is related to the comprehensive attributes of the target. Hiss. Lu Yuan couldn't help but gasp when he saw these abilities. This is really a bit strong. Taking control of an enemy unit, even for a short period of time, is enough to turn the tide of the battle. What's more, the current infection bug has not yet installed other components. Next, Lu Yuan directly asked the system to select many components from the space for the infected bug to install. Directly improve the other party's indicators in all aspects. Armor thrust, ground burrowing, charging, underwater breathing, and swimming proficiency are all put into play. Not only that, the paralysis potion in the lottery was successfully fused to the infected insect. Directly let their nerve parasitism ability evolve into nerve paralysis. This, combined with the fungal growth ability, can extend the target's movement time and create better conditions for controlling the opponent's units. After doing all this, Lu Yuan just exited the divine space. When he returned to the examination center again, the rest period was over. Everyone in the entire examination room couldn't help but look at the two of them. Because the finals are about to begin. The two finalists enter the login cabin. The invigilator's voice sounded. Lu Yuan and Luo Ziming stood up at the same time and walked towards the login cabin below. As he walked, Luo Ziming's eyes had a cold and forbidding light. Lu Yuan, don't think that just because you have those ugly bugs, you can win. Luo Ziming said cruelly. Just wait to be torn apart by me. I want you to know that in the face of absolute strength, no matter how many there are, it is useless. Lu Yuan from beginning to end. He didn't even look at Luo Ziming. He walked directly into his login cabin. Seeing this scene, the anger in Luo Ziming's eyes rose even more. HMPH, I can knock you into the abyss once, and I can knock you into the abyss a second time. After saying harsh words, Luo Ziming also entered the login cabin. After both parties enter, everyone only saw the big screen turn, and the drawing of the competition map started directly. Tip Virtual God Realm login completed. Tip Scene extraction completed. Tip Competition scene. Frozen soil and ice field. Tip Countdown is 1 minute. Players are requested to deploy as soon as possible. Lu Yuan glanced across the divine space. This time, he directly chose 50,000 tearing springtails and 10,000 completely transformed poisonous bannerlings. 5,000 newly evolved level 2 infected insects were also brought along. At last, Lu Yuan unceremoniously brought along his own mental aberration, Abathur. If such an army cannot defeat the opponent, it will be useless even if you send out all the tearing springtails. The moment the countdown ended, Lu Yuan and the Zerg army were teleported directly to the frozen soil and ice sheet. And in the stands, see the Zerg figure appearing on the big screen. In an instant, countless gasps of air rang out throughout the examination center. Oh my God, is he really a new student? Isn't this too much? The Great Demon King is worthy of being the Great Demon King. He actually hid his clumsiness before. Zhangzhuo, it seems to me that I haven't exerted my strength at all, okay. Many female classmates who originally called Lu Yuan the Big Devil gradually changed their tune after seeing such a terrifying Zerg army. There is even a feeling of admiration emerging. When the gap in strength is beyond imagination. The distant love and hatred have gradually disappeared. Where did this guy get so many troops? Teacher Ning Yun's beautiful eyes were filled with sparkles, and she was also shocked by Lu Yuan's preparation. Haha, it's not just the quantity. Hong Qinghe obviously saw more things. Have the types of soldiers even been increased? It has only been a few days, but this boy actually knows the importance of composite arms. It is indeed a material that can be made. Quote, isn't that a sure win? Ning Yun couldn't help but said after hearing this. That's not necessarily the case. Next to him, teacher Zhao Hu, who had been holding back, suddenly spoke at this moment. As far as I know, Luo Ziming is very well prepared. In the virtual charm, I saw that Lu Yuan actually summoned so many troops. Luo Ziming's face was stunned at first, and then he laughed wildly. Lu Yuan, it seems that I really underestimated you. I didn't expect you to grow to such an extent. As he spoke, he suddenly let out a low drink. It's a pity that no matter how strong you are, you will still be trampled under my feet. Come out, my followers. Buzz. Luo Ziming waved his hand, and figures appeared one after another dozens of miles away. They are also heavily armed desert snake men. Only. This time the number has doubled. 1,000 desert snake people, is this your confidence? Lu Yuan looked at the other believer race and spoke for the first time. Haha, get ready to tremble. Luo Ziming roared and directly issued the oracle. Kill me. Hey, charge, for the glory of my lord. Roaring, 1,000 desert snakemen charged towards Lu Yuan's army on the cold ice field without hesitation. Front row tearing Zergling charge. Seeing this, Lu Yuan also sent down an oracle. Suddenly, 10,000 tearing springtails began to charge towards the opponent. Lu Yuan didn't know where Luo Ziming had the confidence, so he just sent out 10,000 to test it out first. Hey, for the glory of my lord. The desert snake man was still shouting. Ouch. The tearing springtails roared as well. Just like that, after a brief charge, the two camps quickly approached and finally collided on the ice field where the cold wind was raging. Chi-chi. 1,000 against 10,000, a 10-fold gap. The tearing springtails instantly surrounded the opponent's desert snakemen. The sharp mouthparts open. Just one bite. You can bite off a piece of the opponent's flesh and blood. Both Lu Yuan and everyone watching outside felt that Lu Yuan would definitely win this wave of impact. However, when the sharp teeth of the tearing springtail bite the opponent's body, it actually made a sound like a defeat. What a strong resilience. Lu Yuan raised his eyebrows. Finally discovered the confidence of these desert snake people. At the same time, as if sensing his wishes, the system's notification sound actually appeared in his mind. Ding. Feel the host's gaze. Target information is being read. Before Lu Yuan could react, the other party's information was suddenly displayed in front of him in a list. Name: Mutated Desert Snake Man. Category: Sub-Race. Stage: Level 1. Ability: Tough Skin, Strengthened Armor, Tearing Fangs. Life: 9, nearly the blood volume of 2 adults. Strength: 10, overwhelming advantage over adult humans. Agility: 8, speed is faster than 90% of adults. Intelligence: 5, equivalent to adult humans. Evaluation: tough skin and thick sebum give them extremely high defense and flexibility. Under the stimulation of mutation, their strength has also been greatly enhanced, and they are only one step away from the second level. After seeing the message, Lu Yuan finally understood Luo Ziming's method. The mutated desert snake people indeed possess extraordinary strength. What's more important is that their tough skin allows the tearing springtails to break through their defenses. On the other hand, the desert snake men swung their long tails one by one, making shocking thrashing sounds. In just a few moments, nearly 1,000 tearing springtails had been killed. Different from the previous encounter with the armor-piercing tribe. This time, Lu Yuan's face did not waver at all. He spoke directly. The tearing springtails dispersed, and 2,000 poisonous bannerlings launched an attack. As a demigod, his divine thoughts can instantly envelop all believers with his oracle. Aha, I saw. All the tearing springtails retreated at once. Even if he was whipped away by the desert snake man's tail, he had no intention of fighting back. Seeing this, the murderous mutant desert snake man is about to chase. But at this moment, the poisonous bannerlings filled with this corrosive poison have rolled their spherical bodies and roared towards them. Looking at the poisonous baneling insects rolling in, Luo Ziming's eyes moved slightly. He has also seen Lu Yuan's game footage before. In his opinion, the most outstanding aspect of the baneling bug's power is the exploding venom. As a mutated desert snake man who possesses highly venom, he has no fear of this venom at all. However, before he could finish his thoughts, Lu Yuan's poisonous baneling bugs had already begun to self-destruct. Bang bang bang. A series of explosions of poisonous bannerlings were heard. Yellow-green venom bloomed in the void like a fountain. No matter how fast the snake man is, he can't avoid being enveloped in venom. For a moment, they seemed to have taken a bath in the venom, and were completely enveloped. Haha, you don't know we use poison. Before the contempt in the mutated desert snake's mouth dissipated, it suddenly stopped. Because their strong, tight, and flexible scales actually made a sizzling sound. It was corroded at a speed visible to the naked eye. How can it be? They are naturally poisonous beings, and their body's own resistance to toxins is extremely strong. But he never expected that Lu Yuan's poisonous baneling bug would break through his proud defensive scales. Seeing this scene, Lu Yuan's eyes were still as calm as a deep pool. Poison banelings, keep blasting. Boom boom boom. Before the first round of venom dissipated, the second wave of poisonous banelings exploded directly in front of thousands of snakemen. Sizzle. The venom in the poisonous baneling insects is not only highly toxic, but also highly corrosive. The strong acid inside is the nemesis of scale armor. If you really want to resist, only armor mixed with high-grade metals such as mithril or fine gold can withstand it. Otherwise, it can only be resisted by relying on the defense of the high-level position. No matter how strong the mutation of the desert snake man is, it is only at the first level. It would be too naive to think about resisting the corrosive poison of the baneling insects. Sizzling. Under the continuous corrosion of venom, the defense of the mutant desert snake people has been completely broken. A look of horror appeared on their faces. Subconsciously, he wanted to escape from the venom. But how could Lu Yuan give them such an opportunity? Before the snakemen could retreat far, the tens of thousands of tearing springtails that had been prepared were already flooding towards them like a torrent. The desert snakemen who had broken through their defenses were completely overwhelmed without any suspense. In just a few dozen seconds, their bodies would be eaten clean by the tearing springtails. Lu Yuan raised his eyes and looked at Luo Ziming in midair. However, what surprised him was, Luo Ziming didn't feel any despair or panic now. Not even a hint of nervousness was seen. Could it be? Lu Yuan's heart moved, and he suddenly looked towards the place where the tearing springtails were submerged. Suddenly, a series of extremely shrill roars came from it. At the same time, in midair, Luo Ziming's face suddenly showed a crazy smile. Hee hee, Lu Yuan, you forced me to do this. What trump cards do you think I got from the Luo family? Today I will show you how powerful the distortion factor produced from hell is. He suddenly raised his arms, his pupils shrank suddenly, and countless bloodshot threads spread from his eyeballs like spider webs. In just a moment, it rushed out of the eyes and spread all over the face. A ferocious, evil, and chaotic aura bloomed from his body. And below, those mutated desert snake people seemed to have received the same feeling. Evil distortion, splitting python. Under Luo Ziming's crazy roar. Just heard a loud noise. The mutated desert snake man who was originally overwhelmed by the tearing springtails suddenly burst out with terrifying power, knocking away the surrounding tearing springtails in one fell swoop. Immediately afterwards, everyone in the examination center witnessed a scene that surprised them all. Ouch! In the virtual divine realm, 1,000 mutated desert snakes let out shrill screams. The reason for screaming was not because of the enemy's attack. Rather, a huge pain came from within his body. They struggled, waving their sharp hands to grab at themselves, completely ignoring the torn claw marks appearing on his body. Hiss! Sudden, a heart-wrenching voice sounded. One of the snake men actually tore his body apart. The next moment, giant pythons covered in blood and with bone scales crawled out of their bodies. Oh my god, what is this? It's so disgusting. Look, these giant pythons are growing rapidly. The aura is so strong. Is this some kind of witchcraft? Principal Hong Qinghe, who was originally watching the battle, suddenly changed his expression. A distortion factor from hell. And it's not a complete bloodline, otherwise it wouldn't tear the body apart. HMPH, even if Luo Ziming can get the reward for letting the Luo family take action, he won't give him anything good. Frost appeared on Ning Yun's face. She knew that Luo Ziming would not lose easily. Sure enough, I got the trump card from the Luo family. In just a few moments, 10 mutant pythons split from 1,000 mutant desert snake people. When the system generated their information for Lu Yuan, it was surprising that all of them had become second order. Name: Chaos Python. Category: Orcs. Stage: Level 2. Ability: Python Heavy Armor, Venom Spitting, Dark Night Vision, Whirlwind Strike. Life: 11. Total blood volume of 2 adults. Strength: 15. Tearing humans apart is easy. Agility: 10. Speed is faster than 90% of human beings. Intelligence: 4. Forget about spells and stuff. Evaluation: a body contaminated by aberrant bloodline has no desire except madness and killing. From 1,000 first-level snakemen, they suddenly turned into 10,000 second-level pythons. The originally one-sided situation was reversed again. Ouch! I saw those chaotic giant pythons raising their heads and letting out bloodthirsty roars, and their 3-meter-long bodies instantly launched an attack on the tearing springtails in front of them. The poisonous bannerlings attack. Lu Yuan calmly asked the tearing crawlers to retreat, and then all the poisonous bannerlings rushed forward and exploded. However, when the self-explosion venom contaminated the chaos python, apart from leaving a few marks, it actually didn't cause much damage. Even if it can be damaged, it will take a long time. By that time, Lu Yuan's army might have been severely damaged before the defense could be broken. Ha ha ha, Lu Yuan, use whatever means you have. Luo Ziming, who had become a little nervous, laughed maniacally. I'm going to make you completely despair. Despair. Lu Yuan smiled contemptuously, then let's see who is desperate. Infectious bugs, move out. Lu Yuan's oracle sounded. Below, at the very rear of the army, the infected bugs that had been motionless finally moved. Behind the infected bugs, Abathur, the psychopath, shouted loudly. People, the great oracle of natural disasters has arrived. It's time for us to shine, even if it means sacrificing everything for the Lord. Come on, let the enemy know our strength. Come on, let the glory of the great Lord shine on everything. Buzz. Under Abathur's command, 5,000 infected insects instantly exploded with their charging capabilities. It looked like 5,000 brave dead soldiers rushing towards those chaotic pythons. Haha, Lu Yuan, are you exhausted? Are you ready to self-destruct on another race? Luo Ziming laughed disdainfully. He did not believe that Lu Yuan could possess a method more terrifying than poisonous baneling insects in just a few days. Chaos Python, tear them apart for me. Ouch! Although the Chaos Python is already in a frenzy at the moment, it can still be suppressed by the gods in its mind. Seeing this, they rushed towards the infected insects. The twisted snake tail is ready to attack at this moment. As long as it enters the range, it will whip out the infected insect's head like a whip. However, just when the distance between the two sides was less than 20 meters, the infected insect that was originally charging was suddenly stunned. Immediately, without Lu Yuan's instructions at all, Abathur roared from behind. Fungal growth. Boo-hoo. For a moment, 5,000 balls of viscous liquid were spit out from the infected insect's mouth like cannonballs, and landed under the chaotic python with great accuracy. Tisk. The fungi that landed on the ground began to grow crazily, and in a blink of an eye, they covered most of the chaotic python's body. He couldn't move for a while. Seeing this scene, Luo Ziming's expression changed. Before he could speak, then Abathur roared again. Nerve paralysis. Boo-hoo. A dark brown mouthpart shoots out from the heads of all infected insects. Moment. It cut through the void of more than 10 meters and bit into the head of the chaotic python. Behind the mouthparts, long fleshy ropes are connected, as if building a bridge between the infected bugs and the chaotic python. What are they doing? Ning Yun looked at the big screen and couldn't help but wonder. With the power of that mouthpart, it is impossible to break through the defense of the chaos python. Beside, Hong Qinghe couldn't help but frown when he saw this scene. Suddenly, his eyes lit up, as if he thought of something. Perhaps, they are not meant to break defenses at all. What? Indeed, the sharpness of the mouthparts cannot break the opponent's defense at all. But, the germ spores containing psychotoxins have already penetrated through the gaps in the opponent's scales. It only takes a few seconds to complete the invasion and grow like crazy. What are you doing? Fight back. Seeing the motionless chaotic python, Luo Ziming roared angrily. But at this moment, the giant python that was connected suddenly let out a long roar, and in the midst of many astonished eyes, it opened its big mouth and bit into the same kind next to it. Cannibalism. This word popped up in everyone's mind. They looked on with shock as the chaotic giant python crazily attacked its kind. He simply had to work as hard as he could without caring about his own injuries. Almost in the blink of an eye, both sides were injured in a fight with the opponent. Is this okay? At this moment, watching the chaotic giant pythons hurting each other on the big screen, all the students were completely shocked. This game was full of twists and turns. I originally thought that the Zerg army could crush them, but the opponent actually changed from 1,000 people to 10,000 people. But just when everyone thought Lu Yuan had nothing to do, the miraculous ability of the infected bugs actually reversed the defeat in an instant. No, it's impossible, I can't lose. In the virtual divine realm, Luo Ziming roared like a beast. He never expected that Lu Yuan could make a comeback in this way. Luo Ziming, don't you want me to experience despair? Lu Yuan spoke indifferently. Now, who is more desperate? Impossible, impossible. Luo Ziming's eyes became bloodier and redder. His hands suddenly hugged his head, and a sharp and shrill laugh came from his mouth. Ha ha ha, Lu Yuan, I won't lose, no. You forced me, it was you. Second stage distortion, fusion and regeneration. His shout rang out, and Principal Hong Qinghei's expression suddenly changed in the stands. No, he wants to forcefully activate his distortion potential, which will cause his body to backfire. Stop him quickly. The moment Hong Qinghei's voice sounded, he rushed directly towards Luo Ziming's login cabin. Invigilator, open it quickly. Principal, all login cabins have user protection mechanisms. Unless the user's consent is obtained, or the other party interrupts the connection to the divine domain, no one can easily open it. The invigilator rushed over and spoke anxiously. Hong Qinghei punched the hatch and found that it could only leave a shallow dent. Buzz, Hong Qinghei thought, and there seemed to be a powerful light brewing on his fist. But after brewing for a moment, he took the initiative to disperse it. Although his divine power is suppressed by the rules of the main world, he can still use it. But after all, there are still many new students here. If it breaks out rashly, innocent people may be hurt. But, as early as the design and construction of this login cabin, the user's own safety issues were fully considered. In order to avoid being violently destroyed by external factors, the materials used cannot be destroyed even by gods with elementary divine power. Bang bang, Hong Qinghei punched him one after another. Unable to use his divine power, he could only choose this method. Once the opponent's second level of distortion is fully released, even more terrifying monsters will definitely be born. This monster is not only powerful, but also capable of losing its mind. What worries him even more is that even in the virtual divine realm, chaotic attacks full of distortion factors can affect Lu Yuan's spirit. Once mentally injured, Lu Yuan's potential will be greatly affected. Just as Hong Qinghei was frantically attacking the login cabin. In the virtual godhead, the 5,000 giant pythons that were originally struggling actually abandoned their opponents controlled by the infected insects. They all gathered together in unison. Their eyes turned extremely red at this moment. They were exactly the same as Luo Ziming's eyes. Lu Yuan's expression changed. It feels like something bad is happening. But before he could make any move, all the chaotic pythons bit and killed each other like crazy. This is. Lu Yuan's pupils shrank. In the center of the chaotic python group, these mutually killing pythons are actually devouring each other. Soon, a giant python that was 5 meters long and seemed to be made up of countless broken bodies was born from it. Tip: the enemy race is undergoing distortion. Tip: the enemy race has fallen into a state of madness. Ding! Tier 3 race was discovered, and the target's power is increasing rapidly. Ouch! At the same time as the system prompt sounded, Lu Yuan saw the chaotic pythons that were devouring each other. In the end, it was pieced together into a terrifying monster that was more than 10 meters long and had dozens of heads. At the same time, the system also extracts the other party's information. Name: distorted multi-headed python. Category: Hell subspecies. Stage: Level 4. Ability: Python heavy armor, venom spitting, dark night vision, whirlwind strike, evil fanaticism. Life 30. This is not the blood volume that the 4th level should have. Strength 35. The same is true for the weaker 7th level. Agility 20. Knights with speed expertise may have a chance to catch up. Intelligence 2. Maintain basic instincts, nothing more. Evaluation: the impure bloodline of hell creatures has produced irreversible distortions that cannot be stopped unless they die. Level 4 creature. Lu Yuan's brows frowned slightly. He didn't expect Luo Ziming to activate the second stage of distortion so crazily. Even though Lu Yuan doesn't know what he did. But what is certain is that Luo Ziming's mind must have been affected. Because Even in the battle in the virtual divine domain, as long as you want to use your own methods, you must have it. In other words, if Luo Ziming wants to activate the second stage of distortion, he must inject the distortion factor himself. Otherwise, the virtual divine realm will not be effective. In order to win this game, Luo Ziming did everything he could. Ouch! The roar of the deformed multi-headed python brought Lu Yuan's thoughts back to reality. Hurry up, Principal, it has completed its distortion. Ning Yun looked up at the big screen and couldn't help shouting anxiously. This moment, everyone began to worry about Lu Yuan. Such a huge, violent, bloodthirsty, and chaotic fourth-level creature appeared. Don't know how to resist at all. The great devil must find a way. Big Demon Lord, give up now. It's better to lose than to be mentally affected by this monster. It's over. I thought the big devil could crush everyone, but I didn't expect it. While everyone was discussing, in the virtual divine realm, suddenly, the mentally aberrant Abathur, who was originally commanding from behind, actually kept accelerating and rushed towards the aberrant multi-headed python. Lu Yuan's eyes flashed when he saw this scene, but he didn't stop him. Abathur has high intelligence and has his own judgment on the battlefield situation. At this time, Lu Yuan chose to believe him. I saw the 6 legs running wildly under Abathur's body, and he was about to rush to the deformed multi-headed python. Abominable deformed creatures, prepare to perish under the glory of the god of natural disasters. Spirit screams. An extremely sharp roar suddenly resounded from Abathur's mouth. Ouch! A scream from the spiritual level suddenly turned into ripples like ultrasonic waves and enveloped the deformed multi-headed python. The deformed multi-headed python is certainly powerful, but after incorporating the deformation factor, it has been replaced by chaos and madness. He could no longer maintain even basic sanity and turned into a monster who only knew how to kill. And the mental scream happened to be its biggest nemesis. For a moment, at the moment when the mental scream ripples enveloped him, only a muffled sound was heard. Dozens of giant python heads that were still roaring wildly snapped. The next moment, it exploded like a watermelon. Bang bang. The huge body that lost control of its head just shook for a moment before falling heavily to the ground. For a moment, the whole place suddenly fell into silence. Everyone opened their mouths in disbelief. Is this solved? Quote. Teacher Ning Yun was stunned for a long time when she saw this scene, and then she suddenly came to her senses. He shouted towards the principal who was still banging on the cabin door frantically. Principal, stop it. Lu Yuan has solved it. No, not yet. What did you say? Hong Qinghe had just finished speaking when he raised his head in confusion. Suddenly, the fallen corpse of the deformed multi-headed python made his pupils shrink, and then he exclaimed in an extremely rude manner. How can it be? Your believer race successfully annihilated the opponent with a huge advantage. Hint, you won. Your believers have been tempered in this war, and their faith has deepened. You have gained 70,000 faith points. After seeing the prompt, Lu Yuan moved his mind towards the system. Ding! Congratulations to the host for receiving an additional reward, 70,000 faith points. Ding! Congratulations to the host for receiving an additional reward, Chaotic Hydra Factor. Ding! The host triggers the lucky reward, and the Chaotic Hydra Factor is purified. Lu Yuan looked happy. He didn't expect the system's functions to be so comprehensive. Hydra is a powerful creature from Hell, commonly known as Hydra. Of course, there are also legends that Hydra has hundreds of heads. But no one has ever seen the real Hydra, which existed in ancient times when the gods ruled everything. Now Ragnarok has arrived, and everything has been suppressed by the power of the main world. The originally powerful god died, escaped, and sealed. Naturally there is no news. And Hydra is an extremely powerful creature in Hell. Even just a trace of its own blood factor is enough to cause a huge transformation. Just like the original Desert Snake Man, he was able to become this strong under the influence of the complex and chaotic Hydra factor. How powerful would it be if it were truly fused with Hydra factor? Certainly, Lu Yuan understands that the system has eliminated the chaos. It is also equivalent to eliminating the possibility of Hydra's second stage distortion. Although the reinforcement after such fusion is reduced a lot, it is safer. After understanding the reward information, Lu Yuan directly exited the divine space. When he walked out of the login machine, he suddenly saw the staff of the school medical room, paying a price and leaving in a hurry. I happened to see Ning Yun's figure. Lu Yuan couldn't help but ask, "Teacher Ning, what's going on?" Ning Yun was relieved to see that Lu Yuan was fine. It's not that Luo Ziming. He was sent to the medical room for emergency treatment because his brain was damaged due to forcibly stimulating the second stage factor. I see. Lu Yuan nodded. He knew that this kind of thing must not be used casually. If it didn't even have side effects, it wouldn't be everywhere. The appearance of Lu Yuan immediately drew everyone's attention back from Luo Ziming. Different from before, all the freshmen looked at Lu Yuan now, no longer as angry as before. After all, Lu Yuan's Zerg army still made many students feel extremely unbalanced. But now, Lu Yuan was actually able to deal with even the second stage aberrant race in one go. This huge gap in strength has already opened up with all the freshmen in the entire No. 1 middle school. So, everyone's eyes naturally changed from anger to envy and admiration. In fact, some female classmates looked at Lu Yuan with even more brilliant eyes. Even all the teachers and staff looked at Lu Yuan with admiration. It's been so many years since No. 1 middle school has produced such a talent. Indeed, the name of Cayenne City's No. 1 middle school has disappeared for too long. If this child can grow up, maybe he can really make No. 1 middle school rise. Quote. That's right, a good seedling worth cultivating. Under the admiring gazes of many, not far away, Principal Hong Qinghe also walked over. Lu Yuan, what race did you use to kill the 4th level multi-headed python just now? Hong Qinghe couldn't help but ask. This race doesn't seem to appear in historical data. Principal, that is a new species that has mutated from my Zerg. It is a Zerg that specifically targets the spirit. I call it a mental aberrant. Lu Yuan answered truthfully. This kind of thing itself has nothing to hide. Psychopath, no wonder. Principal Hong Qinghe nodded. Fortunately, I am a believer who specializes in spirituality. It has good potential and is worth cultivating. Thank you, Principal, for your advice. Thanks to Lu Yuan. Don't be polite to me. This time you were able to get the first place in the basic exam, which can be considered a twist and turn. Hong Qinghe frowned and said, Luo Ziming actually used the chaotic Hydra factor. We failed to detect and stop it in time, which was a bit derelict in our duties. He looked at Lu Yuan. Originally, the school took out a high-level God's Domain opening card as a reward this time. In view of your current situation, I will upgrade you to a top-level God's Realm opening card. How do you feel? Quote, a top-level Divine Domain opening card. Lu Yuan's eyes lit up. The value of this kind of Divine Realm opening card was more than 10 times higher than the high-level Divine Realm opening card. He didn't expect such extra gains. Thank you, Principal. Lu Yuan bowed slightly. Next, the test results are announced and the principal hands out the awards. After some encouragement, the entire examination finally came to an end. Lu Yuan returned to his dormitory with the box containing the top-level God's Domain development card. Just take it apart. The top-level Divine Domain opening card carried by a special alloy looks like a palm-sized playing card. There is a faint light flowing on it, and there are extremely complex seal patterns. With the development of the main world, all aspects of technology have completely surpassed those of the ancient gods. Various resource cards and development cards are the crystallization of this technology. Lu Yuan subconsciously picked up the card, and suddenly a system notification sounded in his mind. Ding! The host picked up a top-level Divine Domain opening card. Ding! The top-level Divine Domain opening card has been strengthened, and you will get double the effect after using it. Is this okay? Lu Yuan was stunned for a moment, and then couldn't help but marvel. The system is simply awesome. With such an enhancement, 1 is equivalent to the effect of 2. Just this operation is equivalent to saving him a small target. Because today is the preliminary exam, all freshmen in the school can have a day off. Lu Yuan simply ordered a takeaway and took a bite, then couldn't wait to enter the login cabin with his top Divine Domain opening card. There is a special card slot in the login cabin, and you only need to insert your own card into it. After connecting to the divine space, the power in it will naturally be transmitted into the divine space. However, the number of card slots in the login bay is limited. If you place multiple cards at once, you need to exit the God's domain space and perform manual operations. This is indeed a bit troublesome. But there is no way. Before the divine fire is ignited, Lu Yuan can only do it this way honestly. Once the divine fire is lit, through divine fire, you can directly connect to your own divine space. At that time, cards or other supplies can be sent directly into it. Putting the card away, Lu Yuan lay directly in the login cabin. Suddenly, the login cabin prompt appeared in my mind. Tip: the subspace domain has been linked. Tip: the user is about to enter his own exclusive divine space. Buzz. The familiar feeling reappeared, and when Lu Yuan appeared again, he had already arrived in his own divine space. However, this time, when he first appeared, messages popped up one after another on the God's domain interface. Record: your believer race has increased. Record: your believer race is feeling hungry. Record: 32 nest larvae died. Record: 835 nest larvae died. Die. Lu Yuan couldn't help but be stunned when he saw these records. His spiritual thoughts subconsciously scanned the entire divine space. Suddenly saw, many insect nest larvae are dying of hunger. Not even the tearing springtails moved. This time, Lu Yuan suddenly reacted. The 200,000 troops in the entire God's domain space have been deployed since the last time the intermediate resource cards and newly added God's domain resources were released. He was never given anything to eat again. Zerg also need to eat. Not eating for nearly half a day is equivalent to not eating for half a year. The mutated springtails and infected bugs can still hold on for a while, but the larvae can no longer hold on. This is a bit troublesome. Lu Yuan frowned and said to himself. The food consumed by the more than 200,000 troops now is a huge expense, and as time goes by, the Zerg army will definitely grow in number. The consumption will definitely increase by then. Where can Lu Yuan get so many resources? Certainly. It's not like Lu Yuan has never thought about buying some agricultural and industrial races here, specializing in growing food or raising animals. Not to mention whether the entire God's domain is big enough, even if it is feasible, how many animals must be raised or how much food must be grown for these Zerg races to eat. Lu Yuan suddenly lowered his head and looked at the top divine domain opening card in his hand. If you replace it with a top-level divine resource card, it should be able to last for a while. Just when he was thinking about whether to replace it, a prompt message popped up on the God's domain interface, which made his eyes light up. Tip: your religious race is mutating. The moment he saw the message, Lu Yuan looked directly towards the Zerg mother nest in the divine space. I saw. The Zerg nest, which was originally 10 meters in diameter and covered with ferocious barbs, had now expanded to a radius of 20 meters. Bang, bang. There was a loud noise, and huge horns as sharp as ivory began to rise from around the nest, turning into huge bone spurs that filled the surrounding area. At the same time, a powerful wave emerged from above. Ouch! All the nearby Zerg could not help roaring, as if celebrating the evolution of the brood. Tip: your believer race, Zerg brood, has completed evolution. Open the race panel. Lu Yuan raised his hand and swiped, and information about the Zerg mother nest suddenly appeared in front of him. Name: Zerg brood intermediate. Category: Zerg. Stage: level 4. Ability: larva breeding. Carpet land, worker bee mutation main, telepathy main, insect network main, insect nest alter. Life 50. A huge body must have a lot of physical strength. Strength 0, unable to move. Agility 0, unable to move. Intelligence 30. The terrifying value makes it enough to learn mental spells. Evaluation: the evolved Zerg mother nest has the powerful ability to lay a carpet of bacteria, and its powerful telepathy is not inferior to Abathur. Lu Yuan couldn't help but marvel at the changes in the Zerg nest. He didn't expect that the opponent's evolution after devouring countless resources would be so powerful. Not only did the original place of corrosion evolve into a place of fungi, there are 4 more active abilities. Place of creep: where the mother nest is located, a thick carpet carrying countless bacteria and mucus will automatically be generated around it. Its main function is to provide necessary nutrients for the survival and evolution of the Zerg units, as well as the necessary items for constructing the Zerg way. Worker bee mutation. The mother nest mutates into worker bee insects through larvae. As an exclusive type of resource collection work, their efficiency and speed are stronger than the larva. Telepathy. The powerful intelligence attribute allows the brood to have the ability to communicate with people, allowing it to rule the surrounding Zerg more quickly. Insect network. Use enough resources to lay insect tunnels under the carpet, allowing the Zerg to shuttle through them. P.S. The insect tunnel allows the Zerg to travel. If you want to leave the insect tunnel, you will have to spend more resources to mutate the tunnel worms. Insect nest altar. A unique altar form is born in the evolved mother nest, which can be used to make sacrifices to the gods. Lu Yuan almost laughed out loud after seeing several introductions of abilities one after another. He may not care about anything else, but this place of creep is a big surprise. When I really doze off, someone gives me a pillow. He was worried about how he could solve the problem of feeding so many Zerg. Unexpectedly, the Zerg mother nest evolved directly. Among them, this place of fungi is simply an artifact custom-made for the Zerg who don't want to eat. Certainly, although the carpet land here is powerful, it can only provide the Zerg with necessary nutrients. In other words, the Zerg can use the carpet land to hibernate in it and ensure their immortality. But if you want more evolution and improvement, you still need to continue eating. But, for Lu Yuan, this is already a very good result. At least it solved his urgent need. But, the range of the carpet land is limited. Based on the current level of the Zerg mother nest, it can only spread within a radius of 10 kilometers at most. Moreover, although the creep is automatically generated and has the ability to spread, it also consumes the resources of the mother nest. It would be nice if we could build more brood nests. Lu Yuan couldn't help but think. But as soon as this thought came to his mind, the system's voice sounded directly. Ding. To detect the host's willingness, please note, the evolved Zerg mother nest has the ability to command the secondary brood. A single evolved brood can control 5 primary broods, and the primary brood can share all the abilities of the intermediate brood. Very good. Lu Yuan shook his fist fiercely. The addition of 5 additional Zerg mother nests will not only greatly increase the area of the carpet, but also increase the reproductive output of the larva. This will be of great help to his plan to increase the number of races. But, this number is not unlimited. First of all, the size of the entire divine domain space is limited, and it is impossible to increase the number of Zerg without limit. Secondly, if there are too many Zergs without the help of creep, the resources they consume will not be replenished. System, what if I need more Zerg nests? Lu Yuan couldn't help but ask. Ding. The host can upgrade any elementary brood to an intermediate brood, or upgrade an intermediate brood to a high-level brood, to increase the number of new brood nests. Understood. Lu Yuan nodded. After knowing the entire method, he no longer had to worry about the number of nests and the scope of the carpet. After he accumulates enough, even the entire space of God's domain can be covered with germ carpet. By that time, even if an outsider invades the God's domain, they will probably be shocked. After solving this big problem, Lu Yuan finally got the idea to start opening up the divine realm. With a thought in his mind, he directly released his top divine domain opening card. Suddenly, a mysterious, and extremely powerful wave began to emerge at the edge of the divine realm. In the chaotic and misty void, Lu Yuan's exclusive divine space began to expand. Tip, you used the top-level divine domain opening card. Tip, your divine space is expanding. Tip, your believer race feels the greatness of the miracle, and the believer's faith deepens. Tip, you have gained 150,000 faith points. It lasted for several days before Lu Yuan saw that the development of the entire divine realm had stopped. At this time, he subconsciously called up the God's domain interface. Look directly towards the area above. I saw. The original area of 500 hectares suddenly increased 100 times, reaching a terrifying 50,000 hectares. Hiss. Lu Yuan couldn't help but gasp. What is the concept of 50,000 hectares? It is a square land with a length and width of more than 50 kilometers, equivalent to the entire size of a small city, making the entire divine domain space instantly spacious. All the Zerg were originally so crowded, but now they relaxed instantly. It seems that the system's rewards have taken effect. Lu Yuan knew that a general top-level divine domain opening card could only expand to an area of 10,000 hectares at most. However, With the system's bonus, this range has been increased 5 times. System, give me 5 mother nests scattered around the entire God's domain space. Seeing the expansion of the divine domain, Lu Yuan immediately asked the system to release the mother nest. Then let the bacteria blanket continue to spread. During this period, he must stop the mother nest's function of hatching larvae. Only when the carpet spread is completed can these larvae not starve to death. Boom, boom, boom. In the entire divine domain space, the ground in 5 directions trembled. Next moment, Zerg mother nests grew out of it. The growth was completed in less than 10 minutes. Without Lu Yuan opening his mouth, the intermediate brood had already begun to control the 5 broods spreading the carpet according to his will. This process is not fast and takes some time. Lu Yuan took a look, and now his faith value has recovered a little again. Lottery is out of the question. And the Hydra factor obtained from Luo Ziming was not used. Lu Yuan also decided to wait. After clearing out all consumables in the system space that can be used as food for the mother nest, he broke the link to the divine space. You still need resource cards. Lu Yuan rubbed his eyebrows. The evolution of the brood requires nutrition. Although it is much smaller than the needs of all Zerg species, it cannot be underestimated. I took a look at my universal point balance. Lu Yuan sighed, and when preparing to go to class tomorrow, he asked the class teacher Ningyun if there was any way to find a part-time job to earn some general points. A night of silence. Early the next morning, Lu Yuan came to the classroom to prepare for class. But when he was sitting in his seat, a figure suddenly appeared next to him. Hello, big devil, we meet again. Lu Yuan looked up and saw a fat man standing in front of him. He is 1.7 meters tall and weighs 200 kilograms. Who is it if it's not Zhen Gang? Huh, why are you in our class? Lu Yuan looked at Zhen Jingdao in surprise. Bah, God, your class is ours too, okay. Zhen Jian smiled and said, in order to be closer to you, the great master, I specially applied for a class change. So it was passed so easily. Lu Yuan was a little surprised. This kind of already divided classes cannot be changed casually in no one middle school. It must be approved by the original class teacher and the new class teacher, and finally the principal's consent. But the other party actually applied yesterday and changed it today. This shows the depth of his background. Haha, don't worry about those details. Zhen Jian sat next to Lu Yuan, reached out and took out a card full of patterns and handed it to Lu Yuan. I plan to ask the great God for advice on how to gather the faith of believers. Zhen Jian smiled and said, this card can be regarded as a tuition fee for me to ask God to help me. Lu Yuan turned his head and glanced, suddenly said, advanced resource card, I want to ask a question and need a high-level resource card. When did premium resource cards become so worthless? Lu Yuan thought for a moment and understood. Asking for advice is just a pretense. In fact, the other party wants to show kindness to you. Zhen Han, are you from the Zhen Cheng Chamber of Commerce? Haha, great God's wisdom. The name Zhen Gang doesn't sound good, that's because his father is Zhen Cheng, the boss of Zhen Cheng Chamber of Commerce. Specializing in the sales of various cards, its scale is very famous throughout Cayenne City. When Zhen Jian was born, Zhen Cheng followed the principle of relying on his reputation to make a living and named him Zhen Jian. I hope he is lucky enough to become a powerful god. Master, tell the truth, my father asked me to pass this on to you. I want to ask you for a favor. Zhen Jian said directly. Help, what are you doing? Lu Yuan was confused. Help invade other people's divine realms. Zhen Jing's words were astonishing. In general, there are 2 situations for invasion of God's domain. One is the school's practical examination, which can only be carried out after being reported and approved by superiors. This is legal behavior and can only occur in schools. The other is a forced invasion of the divine domain without permission. Lu Yuan's previous invasion of Luo Ziming's divine domain was like this. Originally, this was already a very serious illegal act. If it happens in society, you will be directly arrested by the law enforcement team and put on trial. But in high school, because students have not yet ignited their own divine fire, no matter how strong their own divine space is, the damage and losses they can cause are very limited. Therefore, it will be classified as a violation. In the event of a violation, the ruling will be arbitrated by the school's agency. There's a lot of maneuverability here. But no matter how you operate it, it is always against the rules. After thinking about it, Lu Yuan was about to refuse. But I heard Zhen Zhang say hurriedly, "Don't worry, the one who invaded is none other than my cousin's divine space." "What, your cousin?" Lu Yuan looked at Zhen Jian with some doubts. "Is his dad crazy, actually looking for outsiders to invade the divine domain of your relatives?" "Aha, that's right." Seemingly seeing the confusion in Lu Yuan's eyes, Zhen Gang hurriedly explained. "My cousin is in number 3 middle school. She is 1 month younger than me, and she is also the freshman king there. My uncle said that she has been a little crazy recently, and this mentality is not conducive to her development. That's why I asked my dad to help find someone to invade her divine domain so that she can taste failure. I happen to know about it, so I recommended you immediately." Zhen Jian said excitedly, "The rookie king of the third school versus the rookie king of the first school, I feel so excited just thinking about it. Is he also the new king?" Lu Yuan was silent for a moment. There were more than a dozen high schools in Cayenne City. The strongest one among them is not one of them. No, 3 middle school, number 6 middle school, and no, 9 middle school are all in the first echelon, while no 1 middle school can only be considered the second echelon. The number 3 middle school is even better among the first-tier schools, and it feels like it has surpassed the other 2 high schools. This cousin of the other party was actually able to stand out among the freshmen in no 3 middle school. She was definitely not a Exabe. It seems that my strength may not be able to defeat her, right? Lu Yuan was modest. "Don't worry, all I give you is a deposit. Regardless of whether you win or lose, there will be additional rewards when the time comes." Zhen Jian explained, "Of course, if you can defeat her, the reward will be even more generous." Is that so? Lu Yuan thought in his mind that he just lacked resource cards. If you can make some extra money here, it will be much more cost-effective than going out to find a part-time job. Okay, I agree. Finally, Lu Yuan nodded and said, "Did you say when? You can set the time yourself." When Zhen Gang heard that Lu Yuan agreed, his face suddenly lit up with joy. "When the time comes, you tell me in advance that my uncle will give you encryption authorization, and you will invade her divine domain as a divine domain robber. Don't let her know it was planned." Quote, "The God's Domain Bandit is a notorious existence in the God's Domain space. They include people from the main world, as well as evil gods who accidentally meet in the void of the outer world. An existence that specializes in plundering other people's divine realms. No problem. Since his identity cannot be revealed, Lu Yuan has nothing to disagree with." After the two discussed it, the bell rang for class. The first period happened to be the class teacher Ning Yun's class. She has long wavy hair and a dark purple tight leather jacket. Very tight. The appearance of the other party caused the entire class to fall into silence. "Students, today we are going to talk about several major elements of the ignition of divine fire and the division of factions of extraterritorial races." Soon the class started. The courses in the first year of high school are mainly theory-based, and practical classes are not too frequent. Lu Yuan has not traveled through time very long, so he lacks most of this knowledge. From beginning to end, he listened very carefully. After 2 hours, the class ended. Ning Yun closed the textbook in her hand and said goodbye to many classmates, but before leaving, she suddenly said, "Lu Yuan, come here." Oh, Lu Yuan followed him out of the classroom, and soon arrived at Teacher Ning Yun's office. "Teacher Ning, what do you want from me?" Lu Yuan asked subconsciously. "No big deal." Ning Yun glanced at Lu Yuan, "I just want to tell you that Luo Ziming escaped." "Luo Ziming escaped? What do you mean?" Lu Yuan's heart moved and he became a little confused. Luo Ziming suffered damage to his brain yesterday because he forcibly fused the second stage distortion factor. Ning Yun said, "The situation was stabilized in the school medical room. Unexpectedly, last night, he suddenly went crazy. Not only did he seriously injure the nurse on duty in the medical room, but he also escaped from the school directly. I called you here to tell you that you should be mentally prepared. There are no special circumstances in the recent period, so it is best not to leave the school." escaped. Lu Yuan didn't expect that Luo Ziming was really capable of doing such crazy things. But this kind of thing doesn't matter much to him. The security in the main world is pretty good. Nodding, Lu Yuan said. Okay teacher, I understand. Ning Yun nodded, reached out and handed 3 resource cards to Lu Yuan. This is a resource allocated to you by the school. The principal has included your name on the list for this Cayenne City High School exchange competition. The time is just 2 months away, you must seize the time to improve. Quote. Lu Yuan's eyes lit up. This kind of opportunity was rare, so he couldn't miss it. Don't worry, teacher, I will try my best. I know you are a promising student. The look on Ning Yun's face turned solemn. But if you participate in the high school exchange competition, you will face opponents at the level of senior high school students, and they are also the elites of the entire Cayenne City High School students. Those students are much stronger than the freshmen. Not to mention Tier 2 races, Tier 3 or even Tier 4 races may exist. Remember not to be careless, understand? Quote, thank you, teacher, for reminding me, I will pay attention. Lu Yuan nodded. In 2 months, his believer race should have grown greatly. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.